We're not recording.
Yep.
But that goes to show you should always pay attention to your instructions.
Yes.
I got to turn my volume down on this thing.
We're going live. I got to turn it down on here too.
Okay. But anyway, yeah. But so I'll be shoveling. That'll be my game plan this morning.
Yeah, it's snowing like crazy here, so I pretty much made amends with the fact that I'm not going out tonight at all, even though the restaurants are back open. But I don't want to go out.
That's right. You guys.
But
open again.
I can't go anyway. I thought of going. You know that part 2 place where they basically bring me where they bring me beers as soon as I walk in. I thought about going.
Are they open again?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So I thought about going there tonight, thinking like, oh yeah, I can go get a burger or whatever, right? And I'm like, no, wait. The dude will bring me a beer without even asking.
Maybe he'll bring the beer to your house and you'll save time. Actually, you can't drink anyway because you're dry February.
Exactly. That's why
I knew you were going to blow this. I knew you were going to.
No, that's why I'm not going tonight because I can't fucking
it's so
drink.
Full of shit. Whatever. Oh, I guess we're live, huh? Okay.
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Hey, Ryan. Hey, Jay Price. Oh, you stopped by, Jay Price.
Holy Christ, Jay Price is in the house. See what happens when you tie her shoes together? She can't untie them. She has to watch our podcast.
Oh, Gabe's heading to work this morning. That sucks.
Oh, that's okay. Just popping in to say hello. Can't stay. Yeah. Story of my life.
Hey, Allie B.
Morning, everybody.
Hey, Lori.
Good morning.
Wow.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I'm going dry too, Jen. So you can have one for me too. Okay.
Yeah. Have one for both of us. We've got 9 days left.
Girl power bullshit she's trying to do right now. I'm trying to tie this thing over here. Yeah. Well, it's okay. We only have one more weekend to go, and then we'll be ready to go. So, Ryan, what's up over there? I'm drinking tea, just so you know, for England.
Yeah, I'm drinking tea as well.
The old country.
We are waiting for double-digit temps before we go. Good call. I don't think I'm going to be leaving my house today. It's snowing like crazy here today.
Yeah, we got a lot of snow last night, and but that's it's actually what was that? It was funny the other day when all those people in the Midwest were freezing. It was like 50 degrees here.
I know, that's fucked up.
Oh, it sucked. It was rainy. I could have gone outside and hung out for the day. It would have been awesome, but no.
Hey, Jim. Good morning.
What's up, Jim? What's going on? Hey, Gabe. Yeah, so anyway, good morning to you.
Yeah.
Scarlett O. Henry.
Yeah, good morning to you, multi-tattooed diva bitch.
Multi. And so it's another Saturday. God, I just feel like we just did this.
I know. The week went by really quickly. Actually,
we should stay on this for the whole week and just stay on.
I know. Do this every single day.
Like a marathon. Just see how long we can go. Can you imagine that?
No, I would need to be drinking to do that.
Oh, well, gee, I'm taken.
Yeah, Jake says we're going to get 46 here this week. I might go for a swim or something.
46, huh?
Kentish strong ale for Ryan. Good morning, David.
Yeah, what's up, David? Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be warm in like 40s here, I think, which is nice. 40 degrees here is beautiful. It's nice.
Yeah, no, I think it's supposed to go up this week. I was noticing here, which is really funny. So the weather that happened, now it wasn't as bad in 1862, bringing it back here to our podcast. Yeah. But Fort Donelson, the shitty weather they had was like, it's eerie how that same thing was happening around the anniversary of Donelson and Henry this year, that they had the shitty weather, which is a lot like the weather they had in the Mud March. Like they had unseasonably mild going into February.
Yeah.
And then they start marching and they're like getting rid of their jackets and blankets and stuff. And
I guess I gotta put my history hat on now, huh? Since we're doing this already. Okay. Yeah. You came.
God, you fucker.
Totally Hudson. Say hello. Yeah, Donaldson.
Alan, hello from Australia. Hi.
Wow, that's
hey,
awesome.
Tony from California.
New country checking in. California. Hey, Tony.
We
can use some of that California weather out here.
I don't think we've ever had anybody from Australia jump on this before. That's really awesome.
I don't think so. That's probably night. It's probably what time is it in Australia, Tony? Alan, it's probably like nighttime, I bet, right? I have no idea. I honestly don't. Morning? No, it's like 12 hours ahead, isn't it?
They're like a day ahead of us, I think.
A whole day?
Yeah. Hey, Heckman.
Okay.
Heckman's here.
Hey, what's up, John? What's going on?
I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, he's been running around Fredericksburg.
Yeah, that was cool to see those pictures. Hey, Paul.
Hey,
Paul? Donaldson, Shiloh, Corinth was a 2019 road trip. Hi from Pittsburgh. Hello. Pittsburgh,
PA.
Yeah, Donaldson, Shiloh, Corinth should be a Civil War Breakfast Club road trip sometime. Like start up at Henry and Donelson, and then go down to Corinth, and then go over to Shiloh.
Well, it's all close. I mean, Nashville's not too far away either. It's 11 p.m. So
11:08 p.m. Okay, so you were right.
I do that often. I'm just going to sit over here and be right. Okay,
you just sit there.
You just sit over there and feel shamed. But no, but it's for real. So we'll take it back to this. But the weather thing is I think we mentioned in the podcast, one of us did, of how the weather doesn't get enough publicity in these battles, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Donelson and all these battles we talked about, going back to even Stones River and Franklin. It's a huge X factor. And a lot of these guys, I mean, you think about like when a football team, like when the Miami Dolphins play up here in Foxborough in December, and they're all freezing, the Southern guys, right? No, seriously. You picture these guys from Alabama or Mississippi in these places. Now they're fighting, staying in camps in the winter time, and how that is. And you're cold from the north too. Don't get me wrong, but it's an X factor. It really, really is.
Well, the funny thing is like, so I used to go down to Florida a lot as a kid. And then in my early 20s, I would go down with like friends and stuff. And remember one morning I went out for a run. It was back when I was a runner, like 15 years ago. And I ran over to the Starbucks to get a coffee, and I was in there and I had on like shorts and a t-shirt. And there's this lady standing behind me, and she says to me, it's like, "You're from Canada, aren't you?" And I turn around, she's in like a winter jacket, winter hat, gloves, and I'm standing there in like my summer clothes. And I'm like, "Actually, I am." And she's like, "How do you do it in this cold weather?" And I said, "Jesus, lady, it's like 50 degrees. What the fuck?"
Oh yeah. Well, it is funny too. I mean, you see a lot of that. When I was living down in Texas, we saw a lot of that. The weather would dip it. As people know, it does get cold in Texas. It's not always 100 degrees out, but in like the fall, like around October, November, it'll dip into like the 40s at night, and people get all bundled up. When the Cape Cod baseball league players come up here in the summertime, they sit here in June. It's 65 degrees at night. They're all bundled up in coats. These kids from Florida, so it's the same deal.
Yeah, like I sat outside that day in Florida and had my coffee, and everybody was like inside. I felt like I was in a zoo because they kept like looking at me as I went by, like what's with the crazy girl with the shorts and the t-shirt? Everybody else has winter coats on.
But isn't it something I mentioned in the weather, right? So I guess we're talking about that.
Yeah, there is somebody who mentioned a Civil War book about the weather. Paul said covered Civil War weather book by Kenneth No. And then Benjamin says, "Good morning from Michigan." He's skipping his morning chores to listen in. Thank you.
Wow. All right, Michigan, go blue right there. Tony Grant, the Cape Cod Baseball League. I am actually the general manager for the Bourne Braves of the Cape Cod Baseball League, Tony. So I have a direct connection with the league. So the Cape League is a good time. But the weather is a huge thing because people don't talk about it. When we talk about Shiloh, we'll talk about how that weather delayed Beauregard, right?
Yep.
What an impact that did. How the weather delayed Grant at Donelson a couple of days. How the weather, it's such an X factor thing.
And the Mud March as well.
The Mud March, that's the one. But when people talk about when people talk specifically about like Gettysburg, they talk about the heat. And that's all because some professor at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania College at the time, noted the heat.
Yep.
So that's what's good about that, right? Thank God for that. So
Winston Groom, in his book about Shiloh, which I'm listening to the audiobook right now, because I used it for research for Henry and Donelson, because he does a good job covering that in his book. He's actually a very, very good writer. He talks about the weather in the area of Shiloh and how I think it was like a few months before Shiloh, there had been a tornado go through that area. Like it was a bad area for stuff like that. He does talk a little bit about the weather too. And he mentions the weather at Donelson as well, and just how frigid it got those 2 nights that the Union soldiers were camping there.
And if you read all the Abner Small diary or all these, they all talk about the weather, but it's just when you talk specifically about the about the history, like when you see the documentaries and you read the books and the actual text type books, you don't hear a lot about it. It's when you get into the battles and you realize how much impact it actually had. The weather's the same as it is today.
It is, yeah.
But Donelson, it was clearly weather was clearly an issue. I don't think it was going to change the battle realistically. Weather wasn't that big of a deal. But again, you did talk about these stories of these soldier guys talking about how they were freezing in the fields, and they were lighting fires against orders because it was that cold. I think it was in the low teens, between 10 and 12 degrees, Jen Price running weather out there, But it's just one of those great equalizers. It really, really is.
It is for sure. And it's I can't imagine what it would have been like to be sleeping out in that, you know. And it happens at Chickamauga too. Like it's September, but there's a frost that night, you know, and the men wake up and their blankets are frozen.
Yeah.
Because of it, you know, and they're just sleeping where they were. And Fredericksburg, the men that were stuck at Mary's Heights, you know.
You don't hear about those wool 40 pounds of gear and, you know, wool uniforms complaining about that time of year, you know. Although, you know something, anybody who's reenacted, that's what I wish Frail was on, and worn that whole outfit in the summertime.
Yeah.
It actually breathes very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unlike cotton where it absorbs the heat and makes you all, like, you know, like on a real hot summer day and you have a t-shirt on, it gets hot, you have to peel it off, it's like attached to you. It takes a half an hour to break your arms taking your t-shirt off.
If you generally don't take my t-shirt.
I mean, okay, whatever, okay. But, you know, if you go out and like mow the lawn on a hot summer day and you have a t-shirt on, it's you become one with the t-shirt. Wool doesn't do that. It breathes better. So it's heavy and it feels hotter, but you don't get as hot. You don't get as sweaty. The heat actually escapes. And so it's a little bit overrated. It was when I was doing my little battlefield thing at Gettysburg with my uniform on the horse that day, riding the horse and my
uniform. Of you.
With my cigar,
classic
Tom Ford sunglasses on, stay in character. But it doesn't. People are like, aren't you hot? I'm like, no, not at all. Actually, I mean, do I look hot? Yeah, but I'm not hot.
Ooh.
No, but it was. But it's the wool actually. It's not as hot as people think it is, and people who've ever reenacted or worn the stuff really know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and Tony says must have been tough not to have a fire as well. They didn't have, they weren't able to have fires. Remember at
Donelson?
At Donelson, and there's been other cases in this war where they could.
Some guys did anyway because
they were fine. Like fuck this. And
they said if you light a fire, you're going to get shot. Well, at least one guy said, well, at least I'll be hot either way. You know, so they weren't allowed to, but some definitely did. I don't see how you don't. I mean. They know you're there. I guess you want to give away position, obviously, but at that point, I mean, my God, you're gonna freeze to death at night. Sometimes you gotta take your chances, you know?
Well, yeah, and some of these southern boys wouldn't have been accustomed to that kind of weather, right? You know, the northern ones maybe, but
that's what we're saying is they probably wouldn't have been. But who knows? I mean, these guys, they grew up in it. It's not like they stayed, their houses were heated and they, you know, like it is now with electric blankets and
Jacob just mentioned the electric blankets.
Yeah. I think I'll say, or cranking the heat up, or
heated blankets.
I think people back then were probably a little tougher than they are now, Mary. I think it's a little bit as I complained. I complained as I have to walk to get my Starbucks coffee because it's too cold for that 100-yard walk.
You complain?
No, never. You know, but these guys were like living in it, right?
It's like yesterday when you told me that your office was cold, and I was like, well, or your office was warm, and I was like, well, then take your fucking hoodie off.
Gonna do that. That was a non-starter for that. You know,
Mike said at the Battle of Chantilly after Second Manassas, there was a dumping storm. One of Jackson's soldiers reported to Jackson their powder was wet. Jackson replied, the enemy's powder was just as wet.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is that there was talk of like Fort Donelson, these the Union guys couldn't light fires and they were cold. Well, the other guys were cold too. It wasn't like there was one was one was warm, was the other. So there was definitely more of an equalizer type thing. And I know they found different ways to stay warm and stuff like that. But I think when you're talking about February 11th and February 16th, and you're talking about that Tennessee Valley area and the rivers area, it's cold. It's cold. People where I'm from think Tennessee is like Hawaii. It's 100 degrees all the time.
Oh, I do too.
All right.
I love Tennessee weather. I could live there year round. It's great. And then people are like, yeah, but there's tornadoes and stuff and there's ice storms. It's like, fuck, I will take that over like having to go out every morning and brush snow off my car.
Well, it's like when I was, when I was living down south, I was telling you before, that's how it was. It does get cold, and it's like in places like Texas, the weather is extreme. It gets really cold, it gets really hot, it rains really hard. It's just extreme. So it doesn't snow as much, but that's how it is. But people where I'm from think, Miami Beach is anywhere below Virginia, and it's always warm. But that's again, most educated state in the country, by the way. Just curious.
Snyder said they used heated bricks and water bottles in bid, which, by the way, welcome Snyder to the I don't think he's been on before. He was on our roundtable the other night.
That's right. We had a roundtable. I thought that was a lot of fun.
It was really great. So thank you to everybody who came out. I know Snyder was there. Jim was there. Allie B. Jacob was there. There's a few others that were there too that joined us. It was a great time. We are doing St. Patrick's theme for our next one because it's on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we'll go a little bit longer. We got some fun
stuff planned for that.
Yeah, we have some stuff we'll be announcing soon about that. But
yeah,
we'll go longer than the hour and a half. We'll just, because the way I see it is, I think most people probably won't be able to go to bars at night, so might as well just do a bar thing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ryan was there too, and Ryan was
it's funny very slow. Bar, you think of Ryan
whiskey.
Well, so
Ryan will have been to a bar already.
That's true. Oh God, can you imagine Ryan that night? There'll be a lot of fucking Jesuses that come out of his mouth that night.
Ryan said he was sober-ish.
Yeah, well, it's welcome to my world, But it's it's going to be. I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of hang out and do our thing, and then we'll have some fun. We're going to do some stuff, and then we'll just hang out and drink and just shoot the shit, talk history like we always do.
Yep.
But I thought the one the other day was really, really good. And like we say all the time, it's the people who do this. They lead it, which is great. Yeah. We just kind of sit there.
No, I always come away having learned something, and it's great to have that kind of like, you get to a point where you feel like you are sitting in a bar talking with people. And that's really, really awesome, especially since we can't do that right now with the pandemic. So it's really great to be able to do that once a month, get together, hang out with people, kind of share knowledge and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what's fun about it too. And that was the whole point of the whole podcast anyway, was just that concept, was just to kind of sitting around, talk to you about the stuff anyway. Might as well
record it. Exactly.
But that'll be fun though. That's always a good time. That's coming up quick because it's it's like the 17th of March. And then that's like,
it is. It's actually already, I updated our coming attractions on the website this morning while we were listening to the podcast, and it's actually the last thing on the coming attractions.
Yeah, so it's coming up already.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to talk about Mar. You can call him Meager.
Yeah, that's right.
If you want.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll talk about Claiborne. Obviously, Patty O'Rourke, I'm sure, will be coming up.
I might even have a Claiborne shirt to wear. I don't know.
McPherson, although McPherson's really Scottish by definition.
Yeah.
McPherson is what it really is.
McPherson.
So that's more.
Did you know it's pronounced Burbsy?
What?
His name, it's not Birdseye, it's Birdsey.
I know it's Birdsey.
Yeah, I'm going to say Burbseye.
Burbsey.
Tony's wondering if we have an island number 10 discussion coming up. Not in the foreseeable future, but we probably will at some point.
We will. See, when we start talking, like we did one a couple of weeks ago about heading into like the pre Vicksburg, right?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about Chickasaw and stuff like that. So as we get closer to the spring and the summer, and as I look at the snow falling, it seems a million miles away. But as we get into that pre-part of Vicksburg, we could do one on island number 10.
Yeah, oh, for sure, yeah.
Because you can do Corinth at island number 2. We can do more lead up, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Vicksburg will have fun with that one, but island number 10 was that's one of, you can't do a full episode on island.
That's John Pope, right?
It's all the classics are out there. Yeah. We could talk about Nathan Banks. We could talk about Butler, the whole river thing. There's a lot of things we could talk about with that.
Hey,
obviously
Charles.
Porter and Foote. Yeah. Hey, Charles.
Well, we get to talk about Earl Van Dorn again in a few weeks.
That's true.
He's our first podcast where we can drink again.
He'd walk into places. Earl Van Dorn.
Earl Van
That's how
Dorn.
I would say it. I would Earl with like 5 periods. Van Dorn. Oh,
Van Dorn.
But yeah, we that'll be fun if we talk about the Navy too, because we could also talk about, I found this money Farragut.
Yeah.
I don't know if we about him, all those guys. That'll be fun. That'll be a good
How
time.
many times was money someone owes someone else money in the Civil War and they think they're going to get a favor for that? Buckner, and then AP Hill showing up at fucking Antietam looking for his money from Burnside, which he's obviously not going to get. But how many times was money a thing where somebody owes someone else money?
The people aren't any different than they are now, right? If you're owed a bunch of money, you want to get it back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And money, makes the world go round, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But the whole AP Hill story, obviously with Burnside is a really good one.
Yeah.
But then we were talking before about Simon Buckner, which I called Simone Buckner, just because of Simone Bolivar. I had fun with that. Someone's going to correct me on that one. I say, I did it on purpose, okay? So fucking whatever. But Buckner obviously bailing out financially U.S. Grant when he was destitute.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, hey, business. Sorry.
Yep. I don't think Buckner was the only one to bail Grant out either.
No, a lot of people did.
I think Rollins did. There was a few.
I wonder how much money. One thing I could not find is how much money Buckner actually gave him.
Yeah, and how much was it that Hill gave Burnside?
I think it was $9,000.
Jesus,
which is a lot of money back then.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
I mean, that's probably like, I don't know, 30 grand now, maybe. You're the math expert. You tell me how much that
we don't need to get into how I'm a math expert.
But it's a lot of money. I mean, so if someone owes you that much money, say it's 30 grand, right? And you know that you're going to see them, I mean, fuck, I'm going to get it, right? Now, to think he's going to walk around with 30 grand in cash or 9,000 at the time.
You never know. You never know.
Maybe, that bang barn ain't free, It's always fun to get that involved in this thing.
Yeah, the bang barn. Snyder says that he has a tentative appointment to see the battle flag of the 10th Ohio Volunteer Infantry the week of St. Patrick's Day. It's a nice son of Aaron style flag, the 10th being William Lytle's brigade. Lytle is one of the stars from Chickamauga until he got cut down.
So
he's the Mason.
He is. We'll do a lot of stuff on the Freemasons when we get into that. That'll be I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be a good one.
Oh, me too. Yeah, no, I was reading the Freemasons at Gettysburg book for about half an hour or 40 minutes last night before I went to sleep. It's very, very interesting. I do want to get the one that you have though, which is like overall Civil War about the Freemasons. Ryan said, look at James Shields. Oh my God, I'm a stupid computer here. Senator from Missouri, Minnesota, and Illinois nearly fought a duel with old Abe after Abe dissed him in the paper. He commanded a division in the 5th Corps in Shenandoah during the 62 Valley campaign and the Kernstown injury and tactically defeated Stonewall. What a guy, and least known to the senior Civil War Irish generals. Yeah, Shields in his fucking duel with
how did Hill get his money? Actually, Hill came from money. His uncle,
yeah, he did.
His uncle in Virginia, he was like his uncle also named Ambrose Powell Hill, so there's no creativity there. He was in the Virginia legislature, and he was close friends with James Madison, and so he had a higher social status. So he came from old money, so that's how he had it. So yeah, good for him. Good for him to make that money.
And Allie B said Buckner gave Grant money to get back to Missouri, I believe, when he was coming back from California. They met up with each other in New York. I'm not sure the exact amount. Got to go check out some books for that. Yeah, Groom mentions that in his book about Shiloh, because he's talking about how Buckner thought he would get cut some slack with the surrender, and Grant was like, "Fuck no."
9,000 is worth 283,000 today. Is that true? Wow, no wonder he went for one of that money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of red shirts.
Yeah, that is. I sort of wore my AP Hill shirt today.
It's a lot of penicillin right there. That's probably why I needed it. That's holy crap.
That's crazy.
It's a lot of money. But you know what though? Yeah, I mean, he had it. I mean, if you could lend someone that much money, he obviously had a lot of money. But that's I didn't realize it was that many. I no reason to think he's not right. I assume that's right. But that's crazy. Holy crap.
Yeah, Charles said, what Army of Northern Virginia officer didn't come from money or position?
Yeah, that's true.
It's a very different call. The Army, like Northern Virginia, like Groom was talking about this in his one book too, how, anyone that came from Virginia, like they were considered kind of like the old stock or whatever. And like, it was almost like the equivalent to being like coming off the Mayflower sort of thing. And they did look down upon generals that weren't from that kind of stock, which probably explains why Pickett is the one that gets mentioned in the charge, right? And not somebody like Pettigrew.
Well, because he was from Virginia. That's pretty much the Virginians wrote. Yeah, okay. Well, the Virginians wrote most of the history with that, but that's the big reason why. A lot of those guys came from money. I mean, if you're a Southern, especially if you go to West Point, even if you don't, I mean, you think about it. The South was a very, talk about stratification. You got some very, very poor people, and you got crazy, crazy rich people, and there was certainly an aristocracy, and that was that, that whole way of life thing that they were, But yeah, good old AP Hill. He's got the money to if you need money, go see AP Hill.
Or gonorrhea, apparently, or a trip to the Bang Barn.
Yeah, AP always paid.
Hey, Ann. Yeah, hey. Allie said Charles F. Smith was like, fuck terms, and Grant was like, yeah, I agree, but let me put it a little nicer. Yeah, Smith was definitely one of the MVPs in this battle. If you read what Lew Wallace had to say about Smith's performance there, he was really rallying the men.
It was.
I think McClernand was kind of sitting back, like.
Well, this was clearly U.S. Grant's coming out party, going back to Donelson.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Halleck. Even after Fort Henry fell, Halleck still wanted Grant replaced. He wanted Ethan Hitchcock to be in.
Well, right? After the one thing that we didn't get to in the episode was all this drama that takes place after Henry and Donelson, which is where Halleck basically implies that Grant is going to be fired. And then he writes Grant and says, no, actually, my bad, I lied. You're not going to be fired. Because I think somebody came down on Halleck and was like, you need to stop with the drama.
If the rumors are to be believed, who knows? But Halleck did basically want Hitchcock to take over. And he's like, I don't want to do it. He goes, I can't do any better than this guy's doing. Why the hell do you want me to do it? And that's assuming that's true, that makes a lot of sense, actually. But again, when you think about Donelson, right, and everyone thinks about the whole unconditional surrender thing, but how quickly that could have gone the other way, how bad that could have gone.
Very much.
But that's how every battle is, though. You need to win these battles. You got two good armies and on the field. Usually, you need the breaks. It's like a pick a sporting event. You could be the best team in the world, but you still need a break to win. The good teams always get the good breaks. And they definitely got a break when Lew Wallace stepped in.
Oh, yeah.
But again, though, Lew Wallace would not have been there if Grant didn't pull him forward. So it does kind of go back and forth.
Yeah. Grant is a star in this, but there's others that are as well that deserve some mention, like Wallace, like C.F. Smith, that made this happen. It's kind of like the trio of them that make this battle happen. And this is also where Grant starts to mistrust McClernand. But too, you have, like, as you said it best when you said the brain trust in the Confederates, the multi-amazing
you had the
Floyd, Pillow, Buckner. Buckner's the only one that's got any talent of the three of them.
You got the true land of misfit toys running that Confederate side, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got Floyd, you've got Bushrod. God bless, don't get me wrong, love my Bushrod, but Buckner, and you got Pillow, right?
Yeah.
But Buckner and Pillow hated each other right off the bat, jealous of each other, and when you, like we said in the podcast, when you look at how it went from Floyd to Johnson to Buckner to Pillow, that's how the hierarchy went, when it should have gone the other way. Right. Yeah. And when you got 4 brigade commanders, right, generals who are pretty good, right? Not great, but pretty good.
No, I would say Buckner's the most talented of them all.
But that should have been enough to win this.
Yeah.
Now, again, they were pushed back in the Cumberland River. They were stuck. They had no way to get out of there. But they did have a plan to get out, and it would have worked if it wasn't for the rivalry between Buckner and Pillow, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There was so much rivalry going on. And Groom mentions in his book, like, it is not known to this day why Floyd and Pillow were put in charge, especially Floyd. It certainly wasn't for his glorious military record. That's for fucking sure.
He didn't have it. I mean, his claim to fame was sending weapons to the south and then hiding from the north.
And then he had fraud charges as well. Like, not just like sending the weapons, he had fraud charges against him too. So he's a wanted man, basically. So when it comes down to, like, they're gonna have to surrender, and they both are like, nope, okay, Buckner, you're running the show.
But a lot of it has to fall back on Albert Sidney Johnston, though, right?
Yep.
Now we spent a lot of time, rubbing his rhubarb on this thing off and on, but for this one, when he has that council of war with these guys, John Floyd has this impression that he's going to Donelson just to temporarily and then getting the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Johnson thinks they're going to stay there and they're going to guard it. So right off the bat, the thing was skewed. Now, they did do a good job with those river guns, though.
Yep.
Right. They did hold them off, and that was a mistake on Grant's part to think they could take that with the weapons. But the one guy we talked about that was kind of the one stabilizing force on the Confederate side was Forrest. You hate to give him credit, but he did.
Oh yeah,
he was the only one who was consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
and didn't want to surrender. He was attacking the flanks all during that escape on the 15th. He was, but again, that's goes to show when Nathan Bedford Forrest is your best guy,
I know. I mean, like I said, though, I think Buckner had talent too. He was just like, he was in such a shitty position with this. Like when they leave, he's like, fuck, I have no choice right now. This is all on me. There's some comments here. Paul said Grant was good, but got and took credit for his lower's amazing performances, like Thomas at Chattanooga, where Grant's plan was Sherman attacking on the left wing failed, but Grant got credit for Thomas's win on the right wing. Exactly. Yeah, that was when Sherman got totally lost, ends up on Billy Goat Hill, not Missionary Ridge, gets pushed back by Claiborne, Claiborne's the one that's outnumbered, and Sherman has a very shitty performance, as we talked about at Missionary Ridge. Thomas ends up being the one, between Thomas and Hooker, they save Chattanooga, right? Like, and Thomas's men have only been ordered to take the lower rifle pits, and they just keep going. And Grant's saying to Thomas, who told those men to do it? And Thomas is like,
they get going, no one can stop
them. Fucking no. Thomas knows
that's
so well.
That's the funny part about it, is when you study this stuff and you think it's so like A goes to B, B goes to C, it's so orderly, and it's a big mess. And I always go back to that Abner Small diary on the 16th Maine, the road to Richmond, when he basically says, if anybody who says that these battles are orderly, it's just, you didn't know what the hell was going on. You knew 50 feet in front of you, and that was your battle.
Exactly.
You didn't know anything else. Yeah, that's how it was. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. But Nathan Bedford Forrest is an interesting cat in this one. I mean, he gets his first kill. He shoots that guy from the Burgess's rifles, who's in a sharpshooter on a tree, and he shoots him and kills him. He had one of his, he had 29 total horses shot out from under him during the Civil War. And he had another one killed on this one. He had 2 of them knocked out on this one. But that's how he was. I mentioned on the podcast that his great grandson was the first American general killed in World War II. Bedford Forrest the third. So he's somebody who, obviously he's very controversial for all the shit he did. And no one's gonna say anything good about Bedford Forrest. But out of all the generals on that battlefield, O'Donnell said he was the only one who didn't have his head firmly in his posterior. There's no question.
Oh yeah. I mean, I still think, my opinion is just like Buckner got caught up in the drama. But I think if there hadn't been, I wonder if Floyd and Pillow hadn't been there, maybe it would have been a little bit different, And again, there was a comment that, where is it here?
Yeah, Jake, I'm just going to ignore your 1801 comment, by the way. I'm just going to let that one slide.
I'm a Patriots fan too. I don't like seeing that shit.
Hey, but what the Panthers asked that Super Bowl, Jacob.
Paul said Floyd and Pillow were no worse than putting Pemberton in charge at Vicksburg. Never had field command, but promoted up and up. Yeah, and Davis had a pattern of doing that, of promoting people that were his friends or keeping them in charge, like Bragg, putting Hood in charge at Atlanta when it should have probably been Hardee or Claiborne. Taking.
He should have Johnston. Joseph Johnston. Not. Yep. I know we had that little mistake in our class the other night that somebody made. You didn't know what Johnson was. What Johnson and Johnson.
You try editing for an hour, hearing Albert Sidney Johnston's name, and then having to switch back to the other one.
It's always tough when you confuse your Johnsons, Mary.
Ooh.
What the hell? Vinatieri. Yeah. Hey, God bless Vinatieri. I hate him now though. But I guess I think but going to Vicksburg, when we study more about Vicksburg, that was going to be a siege. He didn't need a strong battle commander for Vicksburg. He needed someone who was going to play defense and just stay in there and ride it out. And you read guys like Groom's book about Vicksburg, it really tells a good story about him. I don't think Pemberton's bad as I think people think he is.
No.
But he was in an impossible situation. He really was.
And he wasn't trusted either because he's a Northerner who has switched to the Confederacy. It's very much like any of the Southern-born Northern generals that weren't as trusted, right? Like Thomas being probably the main one from Virginia. But then again, you have somebody like John Gibbon who's raised in the South, and you never hear stories of people mistrusting him at all.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these guys. I mean, Sherman himself had Southern leanings.
Yeah. Sherman thought he found home in Louisiana, and then they fucking seceded, and he's like, fuck, I might end up in Ohio after all.
He's a guy who could have, you think about it, if he was born in the South, he would have been a classic Southern general. If you really think about it, and I got my Uncle Blingy glass right here. So
yeah, I love that. I got to get that. I did check Amazon, by the way, and yeah, no dice on the getting it from Canada. So
I'll get it. I'll send it up to you.
No, you don't just send it up to me.
I'm the reason country music is so sad.
It's true.
That's true.
But yeah, Allie B said Buckner and Pillow knew each other before the war and didn't like each other, most likely. Charles says Bragg had no friends other than Jeff Davis, must have owed Braxton money. Well, he did have his dog Braxy.
Stupid Braxy in a while. But the point is, we were talking before about Buckner and Pillow, though, about how they don't get along. That's a pretty common thing, though. I mean, you look at all the little petty rivalries. Mm-hmm. Now, we've been talking well about Grant, but we got to talk about his situation with Rosecrans, right? His situation with Hooker.
Yeah.
Now, Grant has that history of not giving subordinates credit and then, diminishing what they did.
Yeah.
And we talked before many, many times how whoever was going to be the musical chairs,
Don't do that.
But when you do when the musical chairs was going to stop, whoever was the Union general, the hero was going to be president. Yeah. Everyone knew that, and so they're all muscling for that. And Grant was savvy. He knew. He wasn't the best president, but he knew how to get there.
Well, like I was telling you this morning, I was reading that one letter where Sherman is going paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, just praising Grant. And like, I believe what he's saying. I think he did feel that about him. But, Sherman is a guy that didn't have any political ambitions at all. Like he made that very well known. There's a letter in that same book where he's writing to his brother. It's paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of how much the press sucks.
Well, he was good. Like he hated the press, but that's a big reason why Grant liked him. I have to think that because he knew he wasn't a rival. He was a guy he knew. He was that guy you go to the bar with. That if a fight starts, he's going to jump in and beat the hell out of anybody.
Exactly.
You got to have a guy like that.
Yeah, and
like when you go to the mine on a Saturday night, you start pulling your first core broke first shit.
Oh, that's happening. That was really funny when Mark Blanchard had that going on.
Yeah, it's funny.
He retweeted me, and then he's like, "You're wrong about the first score."
Cutler broke first. He did. Part of his guys did first core. Not the 11. I agree with you. And I think,
and on Twitter you were like, "Can't wait to see this with that guy flipping the chair." Like that's how you're going to be at the mine. I'll be waiting for you to come to my defense at the fucking mine.
There were definitely remnants of Cutler and especially guys of John Cleveland Robinson's division broke. There's no question.
It was by minutes, but it was.
But they did. Don't worry. Good old O. He's still.
I'm just trying to save my beloved 11th core.
The third O was for the halo. We all know.
But what was I gonna say? I got sidetracked.
Oh, who knows? What do you ever say?
Fucking sidetracked again.
Shocker.
But yeah, like Grant definitely, I think he did. Like, I mean, my opinion is he did have the political ambitions early on. I think he knew where he was headed with that. But he had a way of hiding it too. But yeah, and like Sherman outranks Grant, I think, is if I'm saying that correctly. But he writes letters saying that he doesn't mind helping Grant out. He's okay if when Grant became lieutenant general, he was okay with that, but he's writing him letters around Donelson and Henry saying, whatever you need, I'll send it to you. I will help you out if you need more soldiers or whatever, they're yours. And I will come to your help. Mm-hmm. So you can see the friendship there really beginning to form. And I think it's after this when Halleck does that kind of smear campaign against him and threatens to fire him and Grant threatens to leave the army, that Sherman goes to him and says, you can't leave. You have to stay.
Well, I mean, I think, he had, especially with Donelson, Lincoln was, he finally found his guy to fight, right?
Yeah.
This is the guy he wanted. So Grant was a golden child at that point. Mm-hmm. And I think Halleck knew it, right?
Yeah, and Halleck didn't like that.
No, he didn't like it, and that's probably. I think he knew that Donelson was probably going to fall. And that's probably why he wanted to replace him with Ethan Hitchcock. Probably, realistically. That's all petty stuff,
Mm-hmm. It's stuff that you think you leave behind in grade 3, but then it turns out you don't leave it behind in grade 3.
Okay.
Or like you're getting pitted against one the other, whatever. I don't know. It's fucking drama from public school sort of thing. Tony says, was the president thing more of his wife's Julia's push than his own? I don't think so. Julia wasn't really From what I've read, now just my opinion, someone else can step in here and give theirs about this. I don't think Julia was politically ambitious for her husband in, say, the same way that Mary Lincoln was for Abraham Lincoln. Like, you can see there's a definite push with Mary Lincoln, with Abraham Lincoln becoming president. She definitely was a factor in pushing him to do that. I don't know that Julia was like that. I don't think she was.
No, I mean, she had the connections, obviously. I mean,
she definitely did. No doubt.
I mean, I'm sure that she didn't break her heart to be the first lady and run a president, but I think people liked him, and people don't realize. I mean, he had guys like John Mosby working with him, Longstreet working for him, and so he had a lot. I mean, he was a guy who was obviously very well respected. People still, up to that point, people thought the best generals made the best presidents. I think of George Washington. I mean, people still thought of Andrew Jackson, I guess, but so it was the common thing. That was going to go, and they were all wrestling for it. They were all all these guys, and you could see, now Rosecrans was an interesting cat because he's a guy who dicked himself with Iuka by going to that Cincinnati Reporter and blasting Grant, and so Hooker was Hooker, but Grant always made sure to keep his guys at arm's length. He did. Andrew's not here, so she'd be jumping a little bit for that, but it's true.
Allie did say that Julia was very big into him being president, not the same way, but when Grant was thinking about a third term, Julia really wanted him to do it. And when he decided not to, he didn't tell her before he made the choice. And when he did tell her, she was upset. Allie B. Yeah, that's right. Shiloh was when Grant was second in command, but was basically doing nothing. That's when Sherman went to him and said, "You can't leave." That's when that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, it's it's funny how it all works out, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, these guys all had political aspirations. They did in the South too. They were all these guys. But she certainly would have. Like I said, I'm not sure how much. I'm sure she wanted to do it. I just don't know how much if she really pushed it or whatever. He was doing it on his own anyway, but I'm sure. But it certainly helped. I'm sure.
I'm sure she supported him, and like Allie B said, she did want him to do it. So maybe she did have like some ambition for him in the same way that Mary Lincoln had for Lincoln, with him being very becoming president and all that.
Just don't say Mary Todd, whatever you do.
Hey.
Made that mistake one time.
Hey, I made it too, apparently around the wrong person.
Lincoln. Oh, that wasn't me.
No.
I would never do something like that.
No. But it was after Shiloh that Grant had the moment of wanting to resign, I think, and Sherman was like, "Nope."
Yeah, people don't realize, Sherman really had to talk him into that. He was all ready to go. I mean, he had his, everything good. The Uber was about to pick him up to the airport. He was 1 foot out the door.
Sherman was like, "No, you can't."
He had to cancel. He had to, risk that low rating on that.
Yeah,
and probably went down to a 4 because of that. But,
when I went to the Grant birthplace in Ohio, the tour guide there, he and I were talking about Sherman, and he was saying that Sherman saved Grant's life in many ways. And he was the main factor that kept him, that the guy believed that he was the main factor and that kept Grant from drinking a lot and becoming a complete alcoholic.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they were always kind of the Batman and Robin of the West anyway. They've always been just the tandem. I mean, we're going to be doing the Meridian campaign next week.
Yeah.
And the thing you would say about Sherman, though, is as much as Sherman was very confident in what he wanted to do because he knew what he wanted to do, he never stepped out of that chain of command. He went all the way to Nashville to meet with Grant and said, "Here's what I want to do. I want to go to Meridian. I want to just rip it up. I just want to go cause some damage. I'll be back by the 1st of March. I promise I'll be back." And he did it. But he could have, I mean, as the war went on, he could have kind of forged his own identity, which he ultimately did. Yeah. But he could have been his own guy, but he was always loyal to Grant. Always was.
But as someone said on here, they did that, the quote from him, "If nominated, I will not."
I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Scott said that.
Which is that's a pretty good attitude to have. Not like some good apathy. right? But seriously though, I mean, he saw, I mean, think about it. He hated the press. He hated the media. He saw stuff firsthand, politics, what Lincoln and the administration was doing to those guys. He doesn't want to get involved with all that.
He
was
saw
happy
it
being his military guy. Yeah, exactly. He was happy being his own military guy, living in his own little world. He was very popular amongst his troop, the whole Uncle Billy thing.
Yeah.
You know, he was loved in the North. He was feared in the South. But you know what, though? He was respected.
He was,
That's all he ever wanted.
Exactly. He witnessed too much of politics, I think, that he was like, I don't want to be involved in this, you know, whether it's talking politics down in Louisiana to when his brother John takes him to meet Lincoln soon after Lincoln's been inaugurated, and Lincoln's like, how are things going in the South? And Sherman's like, fucking getting ready for war. Oh, I guess we'll hold our own. Like, that really pissed Lincoln off, because Sherman had firsthand seen the shit that Floyd was sending down there with US scratched out of it, and he could see that they were stockpiling all this stuff for the war. And none of the politicians in Washington, they were just, Buchanan's obviously turning a blind eye to it if he knew about it. Lincoln couldn't do anything about it till he was inaugurated, and who knew if he even knew about what was happening. But Sherman witnessed it, and he was there for secession, and he knew it would be a long drawn out war. And so he's all fired up by the time he gets back up north. We were
talking, I don't know if it was on a podcast or just you and I shooting the shit one day about all the stuff these guys must have seen.
It was last night we were talking about that, like just the PTSD. You know, we were talking about the death of Sherman's son on October 3rd, 1863.
Yeah.
That happened just before Chattanooga.
That's right, because we were talking about Willie and Sherman dying, but the Meridian. That's what that was.
Yeah, it was just it was a few months before the Meridian campaign. It was before Chattanooga, because and I was telling you about the one letter I was reading just before the Meridian campaign, where Sherman's writing to Ellen, and near the beginning of the letter, he's talking about, you know, how they can never have another son named William again, and how his heart is still breaking. And then he starts talking about other stuff, like what's going on in the war. But then near the end of the letter, you can see he's thinking about Willie again, and he's lamenting and everything. It's so sad to read. You see that it's still very much.
But you know what was crazy about that is I remember reading that thinking, who has a child? They lose a child, has another kid, and it has that same name. Who does that?
I don't know. I guess it was common back then. Now they did.
I mean, can you imagine you have a kid who dies, unfortunately, and then you have another kid, you name him the same. I don't know how that's morbid, weird.
I know. I get it, but Sherman said no, they can never. So the next baby that was born, I think his name was Charles. He didn't even make it to a year. You know, which is terrible. But to know what Sherman was going through during the battles for Chattanooga, that his son has only been gone for just over a month, and the two of them were very, very close.
And you know, and when you look at the histories, right, and we've talked many times about how Sherman didn't do very well at Chattanooga, right, and what else is going on in his mind when this is all going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now these are people, these are humans, right? And so when you sit there and say, well, he was asleep at the switch, he was slow, and he well, there's probably a reason for it. I mean, you don't have your A game every single time, right?
No, and it depends what you're seeing too along the way, and when it finally starts to break you. You know, like he can only take so much of seeing shit like that, and these guys saw a lot of bad stuff, and but they all handled it very, very differently. You know. And factor in like lack of sleep and everything else.
Yeah, and I realize that people do, you know, some of these comments that people did name their kids at the death. I don't understand the concept. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I around in these neck of the woods, like some of the old Boston Brahmin families, they would name these 4 kids with the same damn name because they'd all die. It's sad, but it's just crazy. It's just, you know.
Yeah, just going back here and looking at some of these comments. Scott said you should see the Sherman Monument in New York City. Yeah, I do want to go see that. That's the gold one.
I've seen that.
I want to see that so much.
That's a good one. They could put one of those in Atlanta.
They should.
You know? Can you imagine they replace one of those Confederate statues down in Atlanta, put a Sherman one up? It'd be
amazing. I want them to replace one of the ones in Richmond and put George Henry Thomas. That man needs a fucking monument in Richmond.
But can you know how you have like the Hancock statue at Gettysburg with the whole "I got this" thing? You imagine him with the middle finger in Atlanta, right downtown,
with a horse like Howard's.
Oh yeah, with the joint coming out of his mouth. You know.
Fucking Tony Montana the horse.
But you see that thing they did in Richmond when they put the that black soldiers.
I retweeted that this morning.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool to see that. But yeah, I think that there's and Ty Sejul in his book Robert E. Lee and Me mentions that, you know, George Henry Thomas is one of these ones that needs a fort named after him, or he needs a statue as well. Like, why not do a statue for him?
Speaking of, we got the book right here.
Yeah, I got my hard copy too. I had the audiobook, but I got a hard copy. And there's somebody in my family that has a birthday coming up, and I bought them a book. I bought them the book because they need to read it.
Well, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, me too.
No, but that Robert E. Lee and Me book, that's
I'm
gonna literally cry when I'm done with that book.
I felt so sad when the audiobook ended. I'm actually going to start reading the hard copy of it because I want to read it again. It's just so good. Anybody, I know there's a few of you on here that have read Robert E. Lee and Me. Anybody that has not read Robert E. Lee and Me by Ty Sejul, I'm probably butchering his name. Excellent book. It's so eye-opening. Highly recommend it. We talked a little bit about it on the roundtable the other night. We had a really good discussion about it.
Yeah, Jacob's right. Even after Fort Thomas, you can say it's yours. You should go there for the dedication. You're there to cut the ribbon. They'll be happy to have you. You know.
Mike said they have a Lincoln statue in Richmond now. That's very true. They do. Scott, is there any monuments left in Richmond? Oh, hang on. There was just some spam. I just blocked them. Thank you, Jim.
No, you mean Biddles? No, that's not. She's not spam.
But yes, there is a Lincoln statue in Richmond now. I've never been to Richmond before. Driven through it, but never been.
I never either. I've never even driven through. I've been in Washington a million times. It's like an hour, not far away. I've been all through Virginia, but never been to Richmond. That'd be a fun place to go. Like to go to Franklin Street, go see Robert E. Lee's old house.
Mm-hmm. No,
I know they do tours there. Somebody probably knows they do. That'd be cool to get in there and check that out. Rude.
Leave it to Weeks to be rude.
I'm kidding.
Snyder said that. Oh yeah, there is a town in Kentucky called Fort Thomas. That's true too.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll see what happens this whole fort thing there. This is all going to be hitting prime time here pretty soon. There're going to be some fort changes. Yeah,
we've been changing names up here too in Canada of some stuff.
We need a Fort Arthur Fremantle.
Yes. There was a hotel in Montreal that had a commemorative plate on it or something for Jeff Davis living in this hotel when he lived up in Canada after he was released from prison. They removed it. Yeah. Because it was honoring him in a way. And it's like, get rid of that.
The thing about it though, that's the thing though, is you can't deny the history because he did stay there, right?
He did. Yeah, exactly. He did.
Putting a plaque on a wall saying Jefferson Davis lived here, I don't think you need to take that down.
No, but I think the wording on it was that it wasn't talking about who he was, and it was taken down.
No, if it's
there was a bit of controversy behind it. Like it was just.
Well, Montreal sucks anyway. That's part of the problem right there. So
I know it does. We do have a Civil War monument in Ontario, though now.
The Dick Black statue.
Yeah, that's the one in Goddard. The Dick Black cannon. The cannon. If you ever want to be disappointed by a house, check out the Confederate White House in Richmond. That's what Jacob said. I would like to visit there.
You want to be disappointed in history? Go see Plymouth Rock. Or
some people call it
the Rock of Plymouth.
Even said that in a while.
That's been disappointing locals, field trip kids for 400 years in this part. Jump on a bus, go see a rock.
Plymouth. My bad.
Good bars around there, though. I'll tell you. Good beer store too. But it's you can find a way, right, to deal with some of the statue stuff and not deal with the history. Because no one's saying you can't teach the history, you can't visit museums. There's a difference between history and glorifying, and that's where people get themselves in trouble a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think you'll ever see statues or monuments removed from battlefields. Hope not, anyway.
Oh, I hope not. No, as long as the stuff is told in the proper context. I would like to see these statues that are being removed be put in a museum, and then the story told about why they were put up, what the context is behind them, and who the people were, and tell the story that way. Like you can keep the history, but get rid of the glorification.
Well, by definition, a statue is glorifying. It's not teaching.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. You take them and put them in a museum and tell why this statue was put up, when it was put up and why,
Yeah, I guess.
Like that.
But I mean, some of these, if you study some of the history of some of these statues, especially in Richmond, right, where they put these, these civil rights era statues put up, and these it's a shitty thing. But.
Yeah, Ty talk like Ty talks about it in the book, like Robert E. Lee and Me. It's very eye-opening. I had no idea.
Ty
whatever,
says,
Jesus.
You just can't say Sea-Duel.
I didn't want to butcher the poor man's last name again.
What did we get Eric on? God, you had a tough time with that one.
Buckner.
Oh, first one of the day.
But that's actually the second or third one, I think.
Is it? Okay, he just blends in. Yeah. See, I think a fourth Arthur Freemantle needs to happen. I could help with the artwork on that one too.
Yeah. Ryan just put not Fort Arthur Freeman, try Fort Sir Percy Wyndham. But anyway, getting back to our episode, what was one of the things that you learned? You're always asking me that, but what was one of your takeaways or one of the things that you learned?
I don't know about learned. I think I guess the thing that always stands out when I started to study Donaldson is the fact that how things could have been different if the Confederates did get through that line, and while Grant was still back with foot on the boat, he was still doing his jigsy on the yacht thing with foot. If that would have played it, how that would have affected history, how that would have affected Grant, because that would have affected so many things. Because I wonder, does Halleck get his wish now? He can get rid of U.S. grants if he lets them all escape from Donaldson, because that's a huge black mark on your record. Now, what the Confederates would have done if they got out of that, I don't know, because where are they going to go back to Fort Henry again and get caught again? It's not like they could just jump on a boat and get the hell out of it. They would have burst out of there, got out of Fort Donaldson, but there's nowhere they really could have gone. But it would have been a real embarrassment if that did happen. And Grant didn't realize it was happening, that whole Five Forks style,
Yeah. I that was definitely one of mine as well. And also just to see more clearly how this was like the domino effect of the Battle of Shiloh happening. Without Henry and Donaldson, I don't think you have Shiloh, because it's forcing Albert Sidney Johnston to change his line. He has to change it. And I mean, I know Johnston got a lot of smearing in the press after this, even being called treasonous, being accused of being drunk. I don't think the blame needs to fall on his shoulders 100%, because he's telling his subordinates, you need to fortify, you need to do this because this could happen. And Tillman and Polk don't listen to him at all. Like they don't. He's sending them warnings starting in October of 61, and they simply just are like, nah, we don't need to listen to this, But then, he's, it's Beauregard and Bragg that after, it's the three of them, Beauregard, Bragg, and Johnston, that make their way to Corinth. And then that's when you have the Battle of Shiloh happening.
Well, if Donaldson doesn't fall, say they try and they get knocked, they get pushed back. The Union gets pushed back. They go back to Cairo probably, right? And they regroup. But what that Albert Sidney Johnston likely does, is because he wants to strengthen that whole area. Now, he's got that 70,000 men covering our 500-mile front from the Appalachians to the Ozarks. So they're going to strengthen, because they knew how important those riverways were, the Tennessee and the Mississippi. So they just didn't have the guys to do it. I think they would have said, look, the Army, the U.S. tried to take this. We got to strengthen this. So they strengthen those areas. So a Battle of Shiloh probably happens, or probably not at Shiloh, maybe somewhere else.
Yep.
Does Johnston live? Does he not get killed because there's no Shiloh? How does that change the West?
Yep.
So a lot of things go with that. And it's not like they couldn't have won it. I just don't know what would have happened. I think Grant will show later in the war he's going to be aggressive. I don't think he's going to lose Donaldson, and then guys like Hooker or Burnside do, they fall back and regroup. I think he would have stayed on him, realistically, because I think he knew the eyes were on him. And he, like we said on the podcast, I think he knew that this was his chance to redeem himself from all the shit he had put up with. So he wasn't just going to get beaten and go, oh well, and go back to Cairo and say, well, we tried, YOLO. I think he would have stayed on him, but again, it would have been embarrassing if that had happened because he wasn't there. It would have been.
Yeah. There's a few comments here. Jacob said, "I'm getting concerned that my Bragg research is turning me into less of a critic. Am I sick?" No, that's what happened with us and McClellan.
Jacob, the more you study these guys, the more you're gonna like them. Okay, now you're not gonna go Douglas Southall Freeman in love with them or anything like Lee. But when you study, I mean, look how much Jen Price is totaling into McClellan now, right? No, but seriously, if the more you study and you understand why, you look at the big picture. Bragg, he fucks up a lot of stuff that he does, right? But when you start to study them and you realize how those decisions were made and what the surroundings were of going on, you certainly find empathy for them. There is good, there is bad, and there is ugly with every one of these guys.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's
and the more you study, the more positive you're going to find. Yeah, you'll get a soft spot for Bragg. You will.
Yeah, and just like as you study, you'll find negative about them too. Like I've seen more negative about Grant in some of the stuff that I've done because I found positives in others. I see Rosecrans as being, he's not the Rosecrans that I saw at Chickamauga. He's the Rosecrans from Stones River that actually has talent. And Chickamauga it's when he's at his breaking point.
These guys have been through a lot. I mean,
exactly. Rosecrans is through a lot. You look at his performance in Tullahoma and Stones River, he's a pretty talented general. And he is one of the ones that's paving the way for Grant.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot. I don't want to befriend Bragg. There are a lot worse people than Bragg. Leonidas Polk comes to mind quickly. No, but I mean the Confederate side.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bragg. Look, Bragg. Say what you will about Bragg, right? But he was at the front line. He was doing his best. This is a guy who was very popular with the soldiers because he cared for them. He always, he had the medical issues, so he was always going to the hospitals. He was a disaster. He was, but he's not the complete dumpster fire that a lot of people think he is. There were some positives he had.
Exactly.
He did have obviously Chickamauga, right?
Yep. Yeah. He fucked up the victory afterwards because he didn't do anything because the infighting.
He's not the first general. He's not the first general to win the battle and then lose the piece that comes after it. And that's exactly what he did. But he did win that. And if you look at, like Longstreet's assault and you look at all the stuff that went on at Chickamauga, Bragg's name's on the front door on the masthead with that one. So you got to give him credit, right? Now he did get pantsed by Rosecrans over and over and over again, but again, Rosecrans is not that bad. So it makes you as Rosecrans gets elevated, you got to elevate Bragg too. But again, he's not good. He's not. But at the same time, he's not a complete nightmare that a lot of people do. So it's funny when you hear Jacob go. It is.
It is. Like Jacob did say, I'm starting to realize that Bragg's problem in North Carolina is mainly just poor communication. He's hearing two different things. Exactly. And that's what that's what is so great about studying this. Like I had opinions of McClellan and Rosecrans for a very, very long time. I start reading more, putting the pieces together, especially in doing this podcast with Darren and the conversations he and I have together. Like if we're having virtual beers right now, it's virtual coffee, which is fine. It's still the same.
Good idea for dry February, by the way.
Yeah.
Stupid Canadian.
Fuck.
The only Canadian in the world doesn't drink, and there she is right there. Yep. Congratulations.
Just for a month. Oh, I don't know.
My idea. It's always my call. I know you're doing it to be supportive and all that, but it's cool. But,
yeah, well, it's been good to do. I mean, it's as challenging as it sometimes is. As much as I want to fucking drink, there's nice just over a week.
Yeah, like garbage all the time.
Exactly. Too, Yeah. But where was I going with this?
Where's my sign? Who was the one who had the friggin' sign?
Jim.
It was Jim. That's right. That's because
I tidied my room this morning, and my fucking notebook is over on the other side of the room, and I can't get. Ooh, wait a sec. Oh,
great. Look at this.
Oh my god! I found the original.
Yeah,
found it this morning.
I'm still amazed it's spelt right.
It is. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Like what Jacob was saying is, I started this podcast believing certain things about McClellan, Rosecrans, and Braxton Bragg. But as you start to look at it more, and even reading between the lines and just forming your own opinion, what are you giggling about?
Just ripping the Maple Leaf. She knows I'm giving her shit. Although we did beat your ass in the World Juniors a few weeks ago, hockey.
I know you did. I know.
Boston College guys
I cheered for both. I was happy because there was Boston College guys on both teams. So
yeah. All right, we'll take
there we go. And Boston College won last night because I was wearing my jersey.
They always win, but it's okay. You can take credit for that, but it's fine. But what was I going to say? So, but again, as you study these guys, and you know, it's everybody, and that's why we always say read, because the more you read, the more you learn about these guys, and the more you realize that there's more to it. And there are some guys who just you know, like Forrest, you can't spin that in any way, just, you know, but again, you learn about it and you can see why he was the way he was. And so you can be more of an informed opinion, but they're all humans, every one of them.
Exactly.
Every one of these guys has, you know, dreams and thoughts and families and goals. Every one of them does.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, and then the problem sometimes when you read this stuff and you study the stuff and just on a certain level is you tend to look at them as just names. Right, names on a sheet, and you know, like we said before, a blue mark or a red mark on a map.
And there's so much more than that. They're going through so much at each of these battles. Like Rosecrans is not just the commanding Union general at the Battle of Chickamauga. He's a man that saw his best friend's head torn off him just over a year prior to that, not even maybe. And he's walking around carrying buttons from his coat with him for the rest of his life. And he's going on no sleep, trying to piggyback his army back to Chattanooga because he's recognized that he's made a mistake in spreading them too thinly. Yeah. And the amount of pressure he probably felt, and when he saw that breakthrough happening, was just too much for him. And, you know, we talked about it, I think with the Valentine's Day episode, you know, we talked about Claiborne, we talked about the couple that you had the letters for, which is a really good story. And we talked about Reynolds, how, you know, specifically Reynolds and Claiborne, we see a different side of them we wouldn't have seen otherwise. The human side. And just the fact that Claiborne's attitude, he went from being a grumpy bastard around camp to being happy because he had found someone, you know, like that's the thing to remember is these guys are humans. They're not robots. They have emotions and feelings, and to think what Sherman was going through as he's on his way to Chattanooga, that he's grieving the death of what was his favorite child.
It was. Snyder, you guys need to come to Cincinnati. I was actually in Cincinnati about a year ago, Snyder. I was there for the Patriots against the Bengals game during SantaCon in December a couple years ago. Cincinnati is a fun city. We stayed over in Covington, Kentucky.
Yeah. Oh, we will definitely be visiting there post-COVID. Yeah. And I've been there too. I've been to can't remember the cemetery name, but I've seen Hooker's grave there, and I know Lytle is buried there too. And I do want to get back there to see Lytle's grave. And I've been to the Grant birthplace. But yeah,
man, I'll tell you that.
Apparently, we're gonna go to Jungle Gyms for beer and do some remote.
Snyder, that main Strasse over there in Covington, holy crud! That was a Walking Dead back to the situation. That was like, you know, that was long street, and Sickles walking back to the hotel after that night.
Yeah. Scott said that Bragg's generals were mostly terrible. That's very true. He's dealing with and Bragg has a shitty council war after Chickamauga too. Like he's meeting with Polk and Longstreet at 2 different times. DHL never shows up. Polk is, you know, sitting on a rocking chair in the morning.
Isn't it funny though? How some of the people, like especially on social media, especially you, because you step in it all the time.
Yeah, I do.
You run into people who just simply are not going to change, right? Oh. But don't you how do you, and this is what I don't get, because some of the people who come at you are I consider pretty smart people in the Civil War field, right? Today notwithstanding, right? But how do you study to get to that level and not change opinions of people as you go through it? Because the more you learn and the more you study, the more, that's how you learn. Is your opinions on people change as you study them. And so I never got how people can sit there and say, Sickles good, Sickles bad, you know, and pick one and never change. It's always somewhere in the middle. I never got that.
No, neither have I. My opinion's changed about Sickles. I'm still Team Meade, but
just Sickles the first one came to my mind. I mean, Sickles is a guy who, you know, especially in a place like Gettysburg, is going to get emotions one way or the other, right? There are some people who are very, very pro Sickles. There are very people who are very, very anti Sickles. Hey, you know, about all that. And so, but you have to, but I find the people who are the most learned should morph, right?
Yeah.
And some people just don't do it.
No.
I mean, there's been some people you and I have bumped into in our journeys who Never change. They're never going to change. And these are people with high degrees and stuff. I'm like, how do you get to that point? Just never.
Well, it's like people who, somebody on Twitter got all riled up because I refer to Stonewall as the Claiborne of the East. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just from what I've read, that's how I see Patrick
probably
Claiborne.
Not right.
I probably not. No. Yeah. I just need to basically be, it's like, that's nice kind of thing. Pat me on the head and away I go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, Main Strauss is great. All those bourbon bars on Main Strauss. Holy moly! So we got there one night. Mary, it was like a Saturday. We didn't get there till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It's not like Boston where everything closes at 1. It was open late. Our friend Bill. Oof.
Yeah, you told me about that night.
If you guys have ever seen the Maryland statue at Gettysburg, down by the old visitor center, that was he and I walking back to the hotel. Right, that was a good time. And the best part about it, we had to go back to the hotel room and sleep for 3 hours to get up and tailgate for a football game. That's how that.
Nice.
Good times. No water that day.
Paul said, "I judge people by how far you evolve from where you start. That works well for Civil War generals too. Why Longstreet is my favorite Confederate general, why Thomas is my favorite Union general." I do agree with that. And that's why Patrick Claiborne is my favorite Confederate general to study. Yeah, I talk about him all the time, but the reason for that is he learned from his mistakes and he was consistently got better. Like you look at, he's kind of bumbling his way at Shiloh a little bit, nearly gives away his position. And then you look at him at Stones River and you have him and Sheridan, the two MVPs of that battle. They're clashing. The two Irish generals are clashing. I know I'm going to take some shit for calling Sheridan an Irish general, but there is a story. He was born in Ireland, or he was born on a ship on the way over here, or he was born in Ohio, or he was born in New York.
Or as some people think, he just fell out of the sky.
Yeah, he's just Sheridan.
He came to the end of the rainbow for his pot of gold.
But Claiborne's one who evolved. And same with Thomas. Like Thomas is
Claiborne did evolve, and that's the thing. And you're absolutely. I'll give you. Well, you know what? I'm going to say it. You're right on this one. You are right.
Well, I don't have a pen to write it down.
I write the time at 11:15 on the hour. Today, the 20th. You were right about that because he, unlike most of them. I mean, you want to look at a classic case of someone not evolving as Lee, and that's what got him.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the war was changing before their eyes. And he didn't change.
No.
Claiborne did, right? Longstreet certainly did.
Yeah.
All these guys did. And the whole Union Army was consistently finding that guy who was going to change with the times, right?
Yeah. And the thing with the Confederacy in the West is they had that guy. They had a few of them. They just never put them in place.
Yeah, and that's because the politics part of it.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're Claiborne and you basically write your own Emancipation Proclamation and say we need to arm these slaves, and I mean you're cutting your own throat because that's never going to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a group, the CSA, who people say they seceded for states' rights, and the first thing they did was set up a strong federal government. So right off the bat, they contradict themselves. What's Mississippi's rights versus Alabama's? They didn't know. It was the Confederate States of America, right?
Exactly.
So all they wanted to do was replace Northern rule with Southern rule, but it was still going to be federal rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell that to your lost cause friends. Say about that.
I don't
Make
really
sure
have
you're at
lost
the mine
cause
trying to get my ass kicked.
Well, a few people are agreeing with me about Claiborne.
You're right about Claiborne. I hate to say it.
David Scott said General Claiborne would have won the war for the South. I don't know that the war would have, I don't think the war would have been won, but Sherman would have had a fucking tough time in Atlanta had Claiborne been in charge, because like you look at something like Kennesaw, and the more I look at Kennesaw, the more I see it as Sherman is trying to play the personal game with Claiborne at Kennesaw, because he puts all his men right. That's the one time he does frontal, and it's right at Claiborne.
Yeah, Claiborne full frontal is never a pretty sight, by the way.
Ew.
I mean, but for real though, but that's the thing. And that, you mentioned Kennesaw, that was certainly not Sherman's strong point. I mean, Sherman was not a full frontal guy. I mean,
no. And what did he do there? And the person that he's going right at, who's in the middle, is Claiborne, right? I think he's trying to get back at him for the mission, for what happened at Missionary Ridge. But yeah, I think you know, if you have Hardee or Claiborne in charge at Atlanta, or you keep Joseph E. Johnston in charge, things could have been very different.
I think Albert Sidney Johnston, we've said this a million times, if he lives, he does create a formidable foe in the West.
Oh, yeah. And you have the I said the trifecta that would have been created with Albert Sidney Johnston living would have been Johnston, Hardee, Claiborne, the three of them.
But Hardee screwed himself. They all screwed themselves politically. But you want to talk about just competence. I mean, look, just look again. Look at the people. You got John Floyd, Bushrod Johnson, Simon Bolivar, Buckner, and Gideon Pillow. That's your dream team for Donaldson. That's the best you can do. Now, this is the beginning. This is friggin' February, early in the war, pre-Shiloh, right? So it's not like you had a bunch of guys killed yet. This is the best you had.
Yeah.
Right. So it just goes to show that they were playing with without a full deck from the beginning.
Yeah.
But they would have had. You did have strong generals in the South, be created through this, but they either got killed or they just screwed themselves, and that was the end of it. Johnston getting killed at Shiloh was huge for the South.
It was.
Claiborne blackballing himself was huge. There's no doubt about it.
And him dying as well was a huge thing.
Even Beauregard though, right?
Yep.
Because he does the hardest thing you can do is he retreats in the face of the enemy at Corinth, and he gets out, right? But he gets labeled, a retreat. Yep. He gets a desk job basically for the rest of the army. He's another guy who was competent, who probably could have been.
Exactly.
I mean, and then you take out, I know we're not talking about Atlanta, but you take out Johnston and put in freaking Hood at that moment. But when you're trying to run the clock out to the 1864 election,
you put in the guy that's going to fight,
and you can force Atlanta to be a Vicksburg type where you're going to be sieged and run the clock for the election, thinking, okay, if we could hold Atlanta, maybe we win this election. And you put in Hood, who just says, "Ever get in the car? We're going."
Yep.
And it's like you're in a football game, you're up by 20 in the fourth quarter. Run the ball, run the clock out. Yep. You don't go 5 wides, shotgun, and you get picked off and blow the game, right?
Exactly.
That's what Hood did. But this goes back to Jefferson Davis, who's really the biggest enemy of the South is Davis.
And Ryan did say Joe Johnson, Hardee, or Claiborne would have bled Sherman. And David said the war in the East was fought differently in the West. You and I were talking about that the other day offline, just because the differences in terrain, and as well, a lot of these men are fighting in their home turf. Whereas in the East, they're not, right?
Yeah. Falcons. That was a good one. 28-3 forever on that one.
Yeah, LAD said like Hood was like, fuck that, let's attack, and that's what Sherman wanted. He realized he knows Joe Johnson is going to run the clock down, but he also knows that if it's going to be Hardee or Claiborne, they're going to do the same thing. The other thing you got about Claiborne too is Sherman had to know that he had met his match with Claiborne, that was his.
Yeah, but we mentioned before, Sherman was. I don't think Sherman had his A game that day.
At Missionary Ridge.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
Oh, he certainly didn't have his A game at Kennesaw when he was back up against Claiborne.
No, but that was more of a tactical thing, though. I think everything that was going on with the family stuff. I think a lot of stuff with Sherman on Missionary Ridge. I don't think he was there mentally. I don't think he was there.
No, he wasn't.
Kennesaw was different though, because Kennesaw, he was always doing that bob and weave to go around, hit the flank, and for some inexplicable reason, he hits full frontal. And if you've ever been to Kennesaw, okay, and you see that dead angle, and you see that hill they marched on, Cheatham Hill, you'll sit there and go, what the hell was Sherman thinking? And he just, because it was so out of his character to do it. I mean, it's like Pickett's charge, but worse, because you're in like a box. There's trees on each side of you, and you could only go in a certain area. It's up a hill. There's no fortifications at all, and you're going against an entrenched position on someone's home turf.
Yeah.
If you go there and you go, who in the hell in their right mind would actually go up this hill and attack? It's the stupidest thing in the world. But that was a tactical thing. I think Missionary Ridge. I just think that he was out to lunch that entire battle. He was.
Yeah, he wasn't there, but too, I still think that Claiborne needs some credit for his performance there as well. Because Claiborne was outnumbered, and Claiborne proved himself too with having to be the Davis not Davis, but Bragg going to him and saying, please, can you like save us yet again? Whereas Kennesaw, I think there was a little bit of like, I've got to get Claiborne back in Sherman's mind. I need to win this for that reason. But yeah, like you put Hood in charge at Atlanta, and yeah, you're gonna get Sherman got what he wanted with that.
Yeah. But Jacob, yeah, you gotta stop saying full frontal. What if you go over the top and say he recklessly exposed himself while going full frontal?
We're all 12 here. We are.
I know.
Ryan said Albert Sidney Johnston is awful. Doesn't go to Fort Donelson, fluff Shiloh, strategically poor, tries to defend everywhere and defends nothing. Sorry, I'm team Albert Sidney Johnston. Jones Polk and dying being his best contribution to the South. I enjoy it when your comments trigger me. Hey, they're welcome. That's great to hear. I love to know.
I love that. Like Johnston.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, that's great that Ryan, he does, and he's got reasons for it. That's really awesome. That's why we're here to talk about this.
But yeah, Jim, you're right. The Confederate battle put in Shiloh was bad. I think it was because back to Donelson. I think the fact that they were over aggressive because they lost Donelson. They were Pittsburgh land and they had to push them off. And sometimes you just you get your dander up, as they say in the movie. And I think that was the biggest issue. But the plan was stupid. But you think about it though, what would have happened though if that thunderstorm didn't hit and Beauregard has those 2 extra days?
Exactly.
So maybe they get the best of Grant there, and then Don Carlos Buell shows up and Bill saves the day, kind of like A.P. Hill at Antietam, if you think about it. But that's one that the weather made a big issue in, because that storm slowed them at those 2 critical days in April. That's people don't really talk about that a lot. That was another big deal issue with Shiloh.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're going to be doing 2 episodes in Shiloh as well, which will be.
We could talk about all the full frontals at the Hornets' Nest, Jacob. You can look forward to that one.
Hey, Brendan. Hey, Ann.
Yeah.
Lots of people jumping on today. Yeah, it's, but yeah, as you say, like running the clock down, that's all they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, we've said this before, you talk about a battle, right? A war. You either win by will or win by might. The Rebs weren't winning by might. They had to win by will. And so these guys were never on like the same game plan. You can look at any battle and you can just find the incompetencies, not just on the South. You can find them on the North too, but especially on the South, because they were fighting on land they knew most time, right? All they had to do was play defense. And like, I don't know if it was Shelby Foote or one of those talking heads, so that the Rebs didn't have to beat the Union. They just had to outlast them. That's all they had to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Snyder full front general gone wild.
That's what you got to call like the story on like Earl Van Dorn, Mary, the full frontal Earl Van Dorn story, right?
Because he's taken somebody's wife to the bang barn.
Well, yeah, exactly. He paid the price for it too.
Poor Van Dorn. Can you sign my pass? Yeah, bang.
Literally the bang barn right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing though, is that a lot of these guys didn't play to their strengths. And we saw them, like we were just talking about Sherman. He was a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
Is he went out of character so many times with this stuff, Oh,
we did. Yeah. And you have to wonder why he did, if he's having a moment of like, I'm going to get back at that guy, or just, I mean, Chattanooga, you have to remember though, he's just lost his son.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, that's why he didn't have his A game. So I'll give him a pass on that one.
Yeah.
Plus, he only brought up, what was it, 2 brigades and left most of them behind?
Yeah, because he didn't know it was not his shining moment. It absolutely wasn't. And he was going against, honestly, the best that the Confederates had at that point.
He did.
That's not good when you're
in a fortified position. Right now, the Rebs helped them up by fucking up the gun placements on Missionary Ridge, by putting the gun pits down low and the troops on top of the military silhouette. So the Rebs didn't do themselves any favors on Missionary Ridge either.
No,
but they did. And then, of course, is why they ultimately lost it.
Yeah. Well, the best part is when Claiborne's men start rolling rocks down the hill to keep the Claiborne's like rocks.
Can you imagine you see rocks from there? But that's the way it was. But that's the thing though, is that it just you see these things and you assume that everything's like a video game or just everything like a chess game. It's not. It's every one of these are a big mess. Every one of them.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all human. It's all human errors. But again, we have the hindsight to look back and study the stuff we have for 150 plus years. These guys are living in real time. So of course they're going to do it.
Yeah. And yeah, I do find that.
So stop being so hard on them. Okay.
I'm not being hard on them.
Being a pain in the ass.
Fuckers. I do think, like, I mean, I like to study both sides of the Civil War. I have been a little bit more immersed in the Western theater, but I do find that there's more interesting characters, especially on the Confederate side and the Western theater.
Definitely are. They definitely.
It's not just the Confederates that are the island of misfit toys. It's the whole Western theater, but that's what makes it so interesting. And then you have Howard going out there, and he finally has his shining moments out there, and he can hopefully leave the ghosts of fucking Chancellorsville behind. Not according to social media, but I'm working on changing that opinion.
No, but again, that's just the way it is. And, attack from the rear. Yeah. Good old poor Henry, poor Savannah.
Yeah, poor Savannah. Ryan said, it suddenly occurred to me how many Civil War generals were murdered. I can't think of the last time a British or Canadian general was murdered during a war. There were a few Civil War generals that were murdered.
I'm sure it's happened, though.
Oh, yeah.
It probably has. I mean, it probably just get reported.
They're very colorful stories, like Van Dorn.
No, yeah. I mean, that's,
Van Dorn.
You guys never had you guys also never had a Rambo up there either. John Rambo, who probably would have won the war by himself, but he was born too late. Took out that whole town.
We didn't really have wars up here. We burnt your White House down. Just saying.
Pardon? Sorry for 200
years. Yeah, right. Sorry. Sorry, as we're running with torches towards it.
Mm-hmm. But it is funny though when you see some of these guys how they think they're going to their strengths, but I can't get over the Cheatham Hill Sherman thing. I can't. I just if anybody who's been to Kennesaw and has been to Cheatham Hill and walked that, someone needs to convince me how anyone thinks that's a good idea going up that hill against that position.
Well, I think people knew. I think some of his generals were like, "This isn't a good idea,"
Well, McCook, I mean, he got all the way up there.
Yeah,
got shot. He got killed up there. But they had if you go up there, they had wave after wave of breastworks. So you get by one, you got to get to the next one. It's almost like a World War I situation.
Yeah,
And I'll tell you right now, the best earthworks to this day still that I've ever seen have been on Kennesaw Mountain. Now I know, like, I'm studying Fort Donelson this week. There's been a lot of good ones there too. I haven't seen those ones, but the Kennesaw ones are great.
Can't wait to see them. Mm-hmm. Post-COVID will be a thing for me to travel again.
Oh, now we get that new bird flu in Russia starting.
Oh God,
so we got something else, huh? We got something else that's coming down the pike now. It's unbelievable. It really, really is.
Ali B says, I think you can know something is a bad idea and still do it anyway. It seems to happen more than you think. It does, but too, in real time in the Civil War, you might not think it's a bad idea. You might think this could work. I mean, Pickett's charge was a bad idea. Lee went ahead with it anyway.
No, but I mean, it was a bad idea because he didn't know he didn't read the tea leaves. He didn't read he thought what he thought. But also Ambrose Wright getting to the angle, getting up there the day before, taught Lee that if he had more divisions, he could get up there and hold it, because Wright got there with one brigade, right, of his Georgians. And that's and he was also, for an inexplicable reason, Lee was aggressive at Gettysburg when he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been. That's where Longstreet was right on that one. He was right on that one,
Snyder said Canada doesn't have Rambo, but we have Deadpool. That's very true.
I have a Deadpool. Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
he's played by a Canadian.
I think they're still making the Rambo movies. He's going to be like 100 years old now.
God.
Can you imagine John Rambo?
I've never seen Rambo. I'm going to be honest.
The first movie, First Blood's excellent, Mary. The first one is great. The other ones are, but the first one with Brian Dennehy in it, when it was kind of like a warrior enters the footloose town and is about killing everybody. It's kind of what it's like, though. It's a good movie, though. It is. I'll stand by that movie any day. The other one's not so much, but the first one's really good.
I'll have to watch it sometime then.
Yeah, definitely. But again, that's how these things are, though. You get the wrong guys. But what's neat about Donelson is we get to talk about the boats. We get to talk about the Navy.
Yeah. Because Henry was taken by naval fire alone, And I think when Grant and Foote got to Donelson, they thought, oh, this will be easy. They didn't realize the amount of troops that were there. I think they were kind of like, oh shit, we're actually gonna have to fight this one.
No, but this was one that, what Andrew Foote does, he's got the ironclads and he's got the wooden boats too. But there's not, that's the Navy. You want to talk about the redheaded stepchild of the Civil War? It's the Navy. They get no love, right? No. So that's why it's fun. It's fun studying this stuff. Is they basically just the way they take Fort Henry. They didn't have their greatest day at Donelson, but it's good to hear about the boats because you don't hear about it that often.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing I do want to at some point do an episode about the Navy's involvement. Just focus on the Navy and their involvement in Vicksburg, because that is like joint Army Navy operations. But to see it beginning here at Fort Donelson, and to see like Grant, one of his strengths was working with the Navy, right? Yeah, he and Foote had their issues at times, but the reason Halleck, one of the reasons he approves Grant's plan finally is because of Foote being involved. The other thing too, and this isn't Navy, this is just something that popped into my head. The plan for Donelson and Henry was actually thought up by McPherson.
Oh yeah.
At that point, he was down with Grant, and Halleck had sent him down there in a way to spy on him. But the two of them ended up becoming friends, so that backfired.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, there's the politics with Foote and with David Porter that would come out later, and Farragut and all that. But it's still fascinating to study this stuff and just to see because of the Civil War, the United States ended up with the strongest Navy in the world almost overnight, which scared the piss out of England right off the bat. Yeah. With these ironclads, and the Hunley with the submarine. There's all kinds of cool little things that were coming out from that. But let's read some of these comments. Governor, I think they're still, Ryan, I think they're still making the Terminator movies. Speaking of Schwarzenegger, aren't they?
They are.
I like those. Those are good ones. I like the Terminator movies. The first Terminator, the very first one, is one of the best movies of all time.
Never seen it.
You haven't seen the Terminator? Mm-mm. Oh my God.
That's another one for our list.
But I think they're still making those. But these guys like in their 70s now are older. But Schwarzenegger, gosh. I was a Terminator at age 75.
Jacob says David Porter is the best. I'm kind of team Farragut. Damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead.
I mean, all of them. I mean, they're all. It's it. They don't get enough love. We need to do a Navy one.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
No, but I mean focusing specifically on certain parts of it, not just the whole thing. Yeah, I don't want to the battle of the ironclads. I don't mean that stuff. I mean like the river stuff.
Yeah, the river stuff is really, really cool.
We talked a little bit about the Navy when we talked about Chickasaw.
Yep.
Right, the Cairo. And so we'll be able to do more of this stuff when we can talk about the Carondelet and the Essex and that stuff, and just talk about that. That's for putting the sand down. The guys won't slip on the blood and guys get scalded to death. And
that was horrible. The what was that? The name is escaping me now. The one that got the boiler exploded and scalded like half the crew.
The Carondelet.
Was that the Carondelet that happened on?
It's Fort Henry, right?
Yeah. Is it the Carondelet?
I thought so.
Okay.
I thought it was. I could be wrong. I thought it was because that's the one that took the most damage at Fort Henry.
Yeah. Okay.
So I assume it was.
Yeah.
But they fixed that up though. They plugged it up. It was there for the Donelson. I got hit again.
Yeah. Allie B said there's a funny story with Foote and Grant on one of the boats when someone found something in the water. I think it was a missile, and it started to make a noise and everyone basically ran for cover, and Foote or Grant climbed up this ladder super quick and nothing happened. And then they busted each other about it. Tony again said island number 10 too for stuff for an episode.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll do more of that stuff, especially when we get into the pre-Vicksburg stuff, because that's
we're about to go into the Trans-Mississippi Theater in a few weeks with the Battle of Pea Ridge.
Ooh, from me with a good time.
Ooh.
We're doing the Trans-Mississippi though.
Hey, we've never done. Pardon me for getting fired up and excited about it.
I'm just kidding. God,
I know.
Make it sound like we're going to Disney World. We're going to the Trans
Well,
Mississippi
maybe it
Theater.
is for a Civil War nerd.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I know.
We had a sense of humor back when.
Fucker.
That disappeared after a while. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So
and also Rolling Hills Forever.
Oh, the undulations. We know it's undulations. I think we've accepted. I think you need to take the L on that one. I think it's been established that it's undulations.
I will die on that rolling hill.
I'm an undulation. You will die on that swale.
I will die on that hill. That it's rolling hills.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But no, we'll do that stuff. And we got to, into Jacob's point, we got to talk. We'll do Wilmington, more North Carolina stuff too. There's a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff planned already, actually.
Yeah. Well, we've got Bentonville coming up. We've got, because the Carolinas is going to end up being 3 episodes because we have Bentonville and then we have the, like Johnson's surrender, the Sherman and the controversy that happened around that. We've got our 2nd episode about secession as well. Yeah.
And we'll do more stuff at Charleston too.
Yep.
That's a good one. I enjoyed that one a few weeks ago. That was a good one.
The secession one was a really, really good one, I thought. And this one, I enjoyed the Henry and Donaldson. I learned a lot. It's a confusing battle.
Donaldson?
Yeah, I found it really. Yeah.
It's just there's just so many moving parts to it.
Yeah.
A lot of these things. It is pretty funny though when you just, especially the best part about Donaldson for me is the end when it's basically like when they're gonna surrender. They don't want to. Yep. It's kind of like that scene of Rookie of the Year. He goes, throw a ball. I love that movie. This could be on cable. Yep. I'm not going to do it. You throw it. That how they just basically pass the baton around. Where Floyd, he's wanted in the North for basically not treason, but basically
treason and fraud. Like for
I don't think I think it was.
It wasn't treason. There was fraud charges for some railway. It was
mostly fraud. And then Pillow. The whole "give me liberty, give me death" thing.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to get captured because he's been spouting that forever and a day, right? And he's going to be humiliated if he gets captured. So then they just kind of pass it off to Buckner, and they're like, "Here, dude, bye."
They should have had old Bushrod do it.
Could you imagine? Bushrod.
But it's funny though, and you have Forrest is like, he's like, "Oh, we're surrendering. Okay, well, see ya.
Bye."
He goes, "I didn't come here to surrender. I'm out of here." Yeah. So he takes
off across Lick Creek, right?
Cold frozen Lick Creek, and then Floyd goes, "Wait, Nathan, wait up, I'll follow you." He takes off too. They all take off, and they leave all those guys to get caught and take it back to the 12,000 guys bags right there.
Snyder said, "Where can I order an Undulations t-shirt?"
We're gonna be doing merch soon, Mary.
Yeah, we are. Yep.
We're gonna be doing that once we get off our asses. I don't know why it was taking us so long with that.
Because we actually have to sit down and talk about it for a solid hour.
We have talked about it.
I know. Oh. But
don't ever do that again.
Just kidding.
I know. No, we do. We have some good ideas. The Undulations is a good one, though.
That's a good one too. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, we just have to get some like artwork and stuff for it, and some high res pictures as well. We do have some really, really good ideas. So we're gonna
we need to find someone who can draw. So we need to.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we know a few people who can.
I guess so.
Yeah, Jacob's waiting for his merch. But yeah, the whole like just the council they have where they have to like, as Allie B says, they're playing hot potato on who gets to handle the fort, because whoever's handling the fort has to do the surrender. And then Sherman in his letters to various people after Henry and Donaldson, he spends a lot of time with Buckner talking to him. Yeah, I guess because Buckner's a prisoner at that point, and I guess the two of them talk a lot. They were friends. Buckner ends up being one of the pallbearers at Sherman's funeral in February of 1891. Yeah. Which I think the anniversary of that is tomorrow, his funeral.
Sherman's?
Yep.
Yeah, and I know it was in February.
Yeah. So Howard was a pallbearer. I think Slocum, Buckner, Joseph E. Johnston. I think there was a couple others as well.
Yeah, didn't keep that hat on though.
Nope, he didn't. I know you don't believe that story.
He took his hat off for 1 minute and caught his death.
And died a week later.
Yeah, I mean, he probably did. But I don't know if it had to do with the freaking hat, but where I had all the time. I said
he had COVID 1891.
Probably what it was. Probably exactly what it was.
COVID 1891.
But it's interesting though, just to see how, I think you mentioned it towards the end of the podcast, was how the ramifications of this, how it did affect those future battles in the West, though. It really did, though. It really did.
Well, that's the one thing that I've learned about doing this podcast with you and studying it more in depth than probably I ever have before, is just the ramifications that certain things have. Like when you realize that Stones River could have been, if it had been lost, for the Union, absolute disaster.
Well, that's the big what if, and
game changer.
We've said it before. You can't do what ifs because God knows, but that's the big one. That's because it's not one of these stupid ones. That's a real what if on that one, because that would have changed everything.
Yeah, because
the other big what if is Antietam, Mary.
Yep. Those are the two big what ifs of this, like the game changer, one in the Western Theater, one in the Eastern Theater. And if you lose Stones River, you lose Nashville.
Yeah. And that's all with all the gunpowder, all the factories, everything that's in there.
Well, it's the same reason that Sherman's going to Meridian, right? Railway hub.
The Meridian's a couple of things. He's, it's interesting because he wants to go to Meridian. He's gonna lie to some spies that he's going to Selma, because he's trying to keep, what he wants to do is he wants to basically go up to destroy the railroads and the infrastructure and tear up the roads, because he's already got Georgia in his head, right? Yeah. If he does that, he destroys all the ways. Because remember how we mentioned before about the March of the Sea, how they were fighting basically a skeleton crew, because there was no ways for people to get there. So he wanted to see, it was basically a dry run for the March of the Sea, but it was also setting it up. So when he did dig the March of the Sea, it was going to be a little bit easier. It would have been more difficult for the Confederates to do it. Now he had his issues. I mean, he wanted to have Suey Smith take out Forrest and he'd disappear off the face of the earth, and Sherman never forgave him for that, by the way. He has that quote about, I'll never forgive him. He may be a gentleman, but I will. It says memoirs I read somewhere, but the plan was have Smith's cavalry. And he had like 7,500 guys. He loaded up Smith's cavalry for this to go take out the 4,000 guys from Forrest. He had him march right through where Forrest would be. So there was no way he could miss him. And he vanishes. So he doesn't do it. And although the Meridian was successful, he never forgave Smith for that.
Yeah, no, he didn't. No, I think that's going to be
he could have got screwed. I mean, because Forrest, it could have been a real pain in the ass for Sherman, but he did everything he wanted to do. With McPherson and all this stuff he wanted to do, he was able to do. But it was a good indication that he would be able to live off the land. But again, like we said before, he had to go to Nashville to get Grant permission to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like paving the way for what he's going to do, with, as you said, with the March to the Sea. And then before that with the Atlanta campaign as well. There's a few questions here. Paul said, thanks for mentioning Antietam. I'm an NPS volunteer there. Amazing place and wonderful team of rangers, paid guides and volunteers. That's awesome. Yeah, Antietam's an amazing battlefield.
God, I'd love to do what you do there someday, I'll tell you.
Yeah, me too, actually. That would be the dream. Charles says, so why didn't Sherman destroy Augusta?
Why didn't he?
Yeah.
I just think it would have taken too much time. I mean, like for the March of the Sea, you mean?
Yeah.
Because he would have got bogged down there. I think the whole thing is he had to get to the coast because he had to get resupplied from the Navy. I think the plan, it wasn't so much about burning everything as was getting the army there, resupply it, and then go north to try to catch up and meet up with Grant. Yeah. It was all stealth. It wasn't about going, it kind of falls back to the whole, why didn't these people who seem to think that Robert E. Lee was going to go attack Philadelphia or Gettysburg, it was never going to happen. That was a supply mission too, but the whole thing with the March of the Sea was to get there as fast as you possibly can, destroy infrastructure along the way. But the plan was to get there. It was simply it was a milk run, is what it was.
And as you're going there, though, you're putting fear into the Southerners, and you're putting fear into those men that are fighting up in Virginia, right, with Lee, thinking like, oh my God, my family's down there, my wife and children are down there. What's going to happen to them? And that's exactly what Sherman happened. I mean, it's much as it's a different type of warfare, obviously, but it's becoming very psychological at that point. I can make this march and make Georgia howl, is what he's saying about it. Yeah, Sherman in his memoirs is very, he starts off all gung-ho about it, but then he says it was just a change of base of operations, and he sees the Carolinas campaign as being the more important one, as well as the one that is really going to break the Confederacy, because he's going into where secession happened, right?
Carolinas is, truth be told, Carolina should be the one people should be studying for Sherman.
Yeah,
they should be. North Carolina, especially,
because
that's really where he really makes his chops. He gets obviously the March of the Sea is the big thing, and make Georgia howl and all that stuff, and but it's really what he does in the Carolinas, Columbia.
Yeah.
All that stuff. And, yes, he doesn't torch Charleston. There's a million reasons we talked about why, but it's really ending the war as fast as you can. Lee was already running low on supplies, and, and Lincoln was basically forget Richmond, go get Lee. And that's what it all was. And
exactly.
I think, plus he had to go see Grant, had to go see his Binky.
To see, I do have to say, I'm going to mention Howard. Howard's memoirs regarding what happens in the Columbia is really, really, it's a very good telling of it. It's very different from Sherman's telling of the Carolinas campaign, especially when they get to Columbia. But if you want something close to what happened in Columbia, as close to the truth as we're going to get, I think Howard is the one to read for that.
Yeah, it is funny though when you read Sherman's memoirs about Columbia, how he does try to absolve himself of that.
He does.
Because he says, look, wasn't meant to be. It wasn't the plan. We were supposed to, we had special orders. But again, you see how he behaved in the Meridian, and damn well people are who they are. I mean, they burned the hell out of that city. They destroyed all the railroads, the roads. He went hog wild. He didn't have an Howard or a Slocum to babysit him on this one. This was a full blast. This was a full frontal Uncle Bling.
It was. Charles says the march was purely political, get Lincoln reelected. Well, that was the Atlanta campaign, was part of that, get Lincoln reelected.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the spark in the ball. I think the Atlanta fall was pretty much the election. It was more political, because I mean, a lot of it too was to draw a lot of the soldiers away from Lee to make them come home to Georgia. And try to weaken the other armies too, and there's a lot of it that went into it, but there was no real strategic aspect of the March of the Sea.
But I think the thing with Augusta is it's a munition center, and that was his thing, was to destroy that. Yet he doesn't go to
no, right. But
to your point though, he's got to get to where he's going. It's just why didn't he?
But if you destroy the roads and railroads, it doesn't matter what you have. You can't deliver them. Yeah. That's what he did. So instead of trying to get bogged down in Augusta and burn the city down, destroy the roads and railroads coming in to and from it, and it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they knew they were going to have to rebuild the stuff when the war was over.
Yeah.
Because that's what the United States does. They blow you up and they rebuild you up again.
Yeah, but I think that's when Howard, when they're in Columbia, he starts saying to Sherman, this is going to end soon, and we're going to have to rebuild this. We also have to be friends with these people. Could you maybe not destroy everything?
So in TM, it's legal to picnic with alcohol on the battlefield. Well, that's good to know.
Good to know.
One of us got yelled at for having a beer on the battlefield of Gettysburg, and that was not even drinking.
One of us drank wine out of a water bottle at Chickamauga.
That was a whole stupid thing that day. Totally
I know, innocent. That's crazy. And there I was sitting at Chickamauga and Snodgrass Hill with drinking wine out of a water bottle, thinking, oh my God, I'm doing something bad. And 3 people walk by me with Bud Light in their hands. And it's oh, okay. Maybe this isn't illegal.
Well, it's like you're rocking the battlefield and, with one of those football helmets with the beer things attached to them or anything like that. But the March of the Sea is more psychological than that. But it's kind of like the March to the Sea is like the quarterback, and the March to the Carolinas is the lineman. That's just the heavy.
I do find, in studying the Carolinas a little bit more in depth with you for this podcast, I do find the Carolinas much more interesting. I mean, admittedly, yes, it's because of Howard, because you see him starting to, I know he struggled with what was going on in the March to the Sea. He didn't believe in it personally with what the bummers were doing, but he had to as a soldier. But I think by the time he got to the Carolinas, he was okay, we got to start winding this down. We can't like beat the shit out of them because we have to be friends at the end of this, you know?
Well, that was the McClellan theory, all along. That's what he wanted.
Yeah.
He let him down slow because we could be friends with these guys. And Sherman realized you can't. This thing's never going to friggin' end.
Well,
he was right about that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think near the end of it, Howard was starting to become like the voice of reason, that we can do some of this, but it doesn't have to be that bad, because we've got to, like, because they're going to exaggerate how it was and we're going to look bad.
Yeah, when they blew that ship up, Jacob, seriously risking the a Sharknado situation by blowing it up over the water, by the way. And people don't talk about that. That's probably why they didn't do it. You need those things falling in North Carolina. The one time I caught a shark, Mary, was off the coast of South Carolina.
I've seen the picture of you with the shark.
Yeah, it was. We were deep water fishing, deep sea water fishing, and I caught a shark. Admittedly, it was not Jaws. It was about a 3-foot shark, but it was strong. And when they pulled it up, I wanted to grab it.
Yeah.
The guy's like, you can't grab my guy. I'm like, of course, I had a couple, so.
Yeah.
And so he's like, all right, grab it by the
gills,
the chest here. Yeah. Oh. But whatever you do, don't let go, because it's going to try to bite you. And I was holding it. It was like snapping at me. Right. And I was holding it like this. And I took a picture with it. The shark's looking right at the camera. Everything. It looks like that. Yeah. That's angry cat. Yeah. I'll have to tweet that picture. I'll tweet that picture. But that was my shark thing. I was quoting Jaws.
Yeah.
Swimming with bow-legged women song for the rest of that day. Oh yeah. But I think the Carolinas is fascinating though. It just is, because it really is. You could really see that the people knew the war was ending. The rebel political people didn't know the war was over, but everybody else kind of knew it was over. Yeah. And it was kind of like the last. I mean, Franklin was the real last great battle.
It was.
But this was still one that was kind of mopping it up. This is like the mop-up crew coming in to finish everything up, just a clean up aisle 4, that type of thing.
Franklin was the battle that maybe shouldn't have happened.
Franklin never said it many, 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 many times.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about an absolute waste of death, Battle of Franklin. No reason for that.
No.
And I know I don't want to mention the C word, but Claiborne.
Yeah.
He's
not the only one.
No, but he's the biggest one though, and that's the one who when you think about wasted life of potential.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at Burbsy.
Bert, yeah.
In Atlanta, but there were people who died at certain times that, but that was a big one for the future.
Yeah. Them. I think we lost there was a loss of a long streak there. Somebody who probably could have come around to, they believe one thing, but then they change and they see like, okay, we lost this. Let's be friends now. He kind of like Pettigrew would have been that way too.
He absolutely would have been someone who would have helped with Reconstruction, the way Mosby did, the way Longstreet did. He would have. He had no. I mean, the Helena
Claiborne
Arkansas
had no connection.
He had no ties. It wasn't like
he didn't have the ties. He was not. I don't think he fully understood what they were fighting for. That is, that doesn't make it right. I don't like that he fought for the South. I don't agree with their cause at all. But his emancipation for the slaves shows that he didn't really understand what fully was going on. But
he was wired like a lot of these, like a Sherman was, right?
Yeah.
Where what do we need to do to win this war? This is how we have to do it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the unspoken. Oh, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. And Jim mentions Butler. He was a good politician, Massachusetts man. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Butler. He's buried up here in Lowell, not far away.
Yep.
And so. But Claiborne was a guy that they had to win the way they were going to win, and they did. Yeah, people say April '65 they did try to arm the slave, but it was obviously the horse was out of the barn at that point. But if he had his way, who knows how things would have changed? How many they were? I think more slaves would have fought for the South than people think.
They might have, yeah. Like that. That is a definite what if right there. Like who knows how that would have been. Hey, Roger.
Oh, what's up, Raj? Just got back from AAA getting my trip. Oh, yeah. Roger, you're the only guy on the planet who still goes to AAA for triptychs. I will tell you this.
My dad would if he was still going on road trips.
Oh, my gosh. Yep. But, Gettysburg in May. Hopefully we'll be down there, too.
Yeah, hopefully.
The
border's open.
Your board won't be open until the fall.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
God.
I'm not giving up hope on that.
That'll be a fall thing, but I'm still gonna try to get down there in May. I'll go down there if I can get out of here, if I can do it. So Roger, we'll be hanging out down there. But it's interesting though about Claiborne and how things would have been different, because this where he was, and he's leading his fight, leading his guys, and had that girlfriend he was in love with, right?
Sue, yep.
And old Sue, so he was fighting to get back to her. So it was interesting.
Well, I mean, he's like McPherson too. McPherson wanted to go get married to his girlfriend before the Battle of Atlanta, and Sherman's like, nope. And McPherson ends up dying, doesn't get to marry her. Same thing with Claiborne. Claiborne asked for leave, and
when you die, you usually get to marry people.
Well, but I know. But what I'm saying is,
there's a death to us part thing in there anyway. That they looked out for that in that whole thing. They were worried about that.
Yeah. But just the whole they couldn't get leave. Both of them have very similar stories in that they were denied their leave to go marry these women, and you got to wonder, I know Sherman carried guilt around for the rest of his life for that, for not giving.
Of course he did.
I would imagine it's the same way.
So Roger, my plan is to be down there for Memorial Day weekend. That's my plan. So we'll see. But that's the deal. So who knows? But I don't know. COVID's a thing.
Well, if I'm not giving up hope. I am not yet. I will not give up hope.
I know, but just be realistic about it.
Geez, acting like you don't want me to come down there, Weeks.
No, I'm just saying you can be realistic about it. But I don't think I'll be able to. I mean, honestly, who the hell knows? I can't even leave this state.
No, I can't leave at all.
I'm
technically not supposed to leave my county. And I haven't.
I thought that was all part of the house arrest thing you had to go on there.
We're not under.
I mean, you personally. I thought it was the.
Fuck off. Fucker.
What's that anklet bracelet for them?
Jesus.
Anyways. Oh. Quiet. You ran up pretty quick though.
No, I'm sorry. Just reading the sorry, I was just joking around with you. Jeez.
AAA, Advanced Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah. That's the one you have to make up a different name every time you go, Ryan. That's what that is.
Yeah. Advanced.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was I got totally sidetracked there. Can't remember what I was saying. Ankle bracelet is for not saying sorry after calling you a fucker.
Says that a lot.
Canadian law. Truth.
Canadian law. No, but I forget where we were going with all this stuff, but it's we were saying about that, but it is interesting though when you look at some of these guys, that the Claiborne thing, and theoretically you want to do a great what if you could do what would happen if these guys survived. Type thing, but no one really knows, because you don't really know what these guys are really going to think about. I think a lot of them would have walked away anyway. I mean, there's no guarantee.
I think McPherson would have been president.
He could have been. I mean, he could have been.
He would have been.
The guy I'm surprised who never really pursued that was Thomas. To be honest, I thought he could have been.
He was so done with the Civil War after, just the way he was treated, and he just wanted, and he didn't live that long after the Civil War. I don't think he did. He died a couple of years after General Lee did, I think, and he just didn't. I don't think he was like Sherman. He didn't really want anything to do with politics. But yeah, McPherson was definitely one that, if not president, he would have been leading the armies. He would have been eventually in, what Grant and Sherman did. That would have been him eventually. That was a loss. That was a huge loss right there. But then if without that, what happens to OO? I still think OO would have been the right wing commander. And McPherson would have been left wing.
Yeah. Well, Slocum. Think about Slocum.
I don't think Slocum wouldn't have been involved.
But think about Slocum. He outranked almost all of them. He outranked Hancock. I mean, if he could have done, he probably could have done whatever the hell he wanted to if he really pushed it. I mean, I'm not sure how much he pushed to get on that left wing commander thing, but he's a guy who, who outranked almost all of them. These peers, all it goes back from what the date you get your star, but he was one of the early ones,
Yeah, but that didn't matter to Sherman. I don't think, like, he was looking for somebody who was calm, cool, collected. And I think when it came down to who was going to do the wings on the March to the Sea, Howard was his first choice.
No, but what I'm saying is, I wonder if he was going to do it. Say McPherson lives, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to do this. If Lincoln is going to sit there and say, no, you got to have Slocum.
I don't think he would have.
No,
I don't. Lincoln didn't really, because Lincoln, I don't think, knew Slocum and Howard that well.
No, but he did know military structure and commands, and he did know all that stuff. And he was the ultimate political. Obviously, he's a president, of course.
He could have stepped in though with Blackjack Logan. Logan should have had McPherson's command, and he did temporarily.
Yeah.
But I don't think Lincoln. I don't think Lincoln would have stepped in on that. Interesting to talk. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, I'm just saying. I wonder. Slocum seemed to be that guy. I mean, he was kind of like that turtle who's just always there. He just didn't seem to do anything. He was always late, just slow, plodding. Didn't make a lot of waves. I mean, have you found anybody in your travels who has real hatred for Slocum?
Nope.
No, but no one loves him either. He's just there.
Yeah, he's just there, but he's also a bit of he's a bit of a drama queen on the way west with Hooker and Howard, where he's like, I'm not serving under fucking Hooker. No way am I doing that. And they send him up close to Vicksburg, and then when he's in Atlanta, he starts forming his own plan to go out and kind of, stir some shit up with the rebels, and Sherman gets wind of it. Sherman has not told him about the March to the Sea yet. I'm assuming at this point he's told Howard, because I think Howard was a little bit more in the know than what Slocum was. He tells Slocum to back the fuck off, that he's got a plan. And soon after that, he tells Slocum, like, you're going to be leading the left wing in this. Mm-hmm. But the reason he does that is
once Sherman got to Savannah, he could have done anything he wanted. Lincoln just, it's all you now, Yeah. But heading into it, you wonder if how that could have played itself out a little bit. But but once he got there, once he came out of that rabbit hole in Savannah, he I present you the gift of Savannah.
Yeah.
Then he could do whatever the hell he wanted. The Rosewoods clown in his right wing. I mean, Lincoln wasn't going to step in that.
But Allie B said that, I don't think Lincoln would have stepped in like that. If anyone would have stood in, it would have been Grant, but Grant trusted Sherman, and therefore I think Lincoln trusted what was going on after some convincing. I do agree.
I'm just thinking the way Lincoln manipulated the peninsula.
That was in the early days of the war, though.
So right, and so I guess it all depends on what he thought of Sherman before Savannah versus. I guess it's tough. It's really tough to say. But he did have his finger on a lot of this stuff, and he did. So who knows?
Yeah. Ryan said Hooker and Logan should have had the wings if you want talent. Sherman went for predictability and an absence of ambition. I don't know if it's necessarily the talent thing. I mean, I do see where you're going with that, Ryan, but Hooker and Logan were more loose cannons. They were more apt to take an order as a guideline. And I think there would have been more shit that happened. If you had Logan in Howard's place at Columbia, could you fucking imagine how that would have gone?
Yeah, I mean,
party, I think Sherman chose them based on the fact that they were gonna keep things from getting really bad, especially in the Carolinas.
I mean, Logan was somebody, was certainly was a wild man, without a doubt. And Howard, you tell, reading those memoirs and those quotes you were reading when we did Columbia, how he was, how mortified he was, and after the fact of what was done, and how he threatened to shoot anybody who does anything like this. And so he was definitely the adult in the room on that wing. Yeah. And obviously it was done by design. It was done by reason. Not that, I don't think, some people say this, that Howard was put in place because he would just not cause, he was just an easy, someone to babysit. But I think it was because he knew politically it was going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And if they went there and literally, I mean, the Georgia thing, it could have been, it's not as bad as his urban lore or urban myth. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's been to Georgia knows that, people think the whole state burned, and it just didn't.
Exactly. Yeah.
they look at Atlanta when really it was Hood who burned Atlanta for the most part.
Yep. Yeah. And only 30% of the city was burned. It was basically the military, more the stuff that would have been used to wage war or whatever. And same with Columbia is on both. It's on Confederate and Union. Wade Hampton's men started the fires, but then Sherman's men got into the liquor and got drunk, and they just
they brought that cotton though, and it spread. But they definitely had a plan in Columbia once night fell that they were going to burn, that they were going to torch the rest of it. And so but it was definitely on its way. I mean, they definitely had a joint venture on that. But Hood burned most of Atlanta. He did. But that's not how. That's if you go there and visit, I guarantee you.
No, and Columbia, it was not Wade Hampton's men that did it. It was Sherman's men. But Howard's saying it was Hampton and it was us. And then he's saying some of the men got into liquor and they were not well behaved at all. But then he's talking about the Union soldiers that were helping out the people that were homeless and protecting them. So he's saying as much bad as there was good too. And Howard saying Columbia was a beautiful city and he hated to see it burned.
Yeah, I mean Howard, he left them 100 cattle for food and gave them weapons for police their own city against their own riots, and so he did that stuff, and they did a lot of the stuff. Now Sherman always talked about burning the military establishment, the weaponry of making war, and those factors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are stories about how they're placing guards in front of old houses so people don't burn. But again, the boys will be boys thing, because Sherman, Hitchcock the guy who wrote all those diary things talked about how he'd be saying one thing and then doing another.
Yeah.
Like he would say, "Don't burn it," but if these guys burnt it, he wasn't exactly heartbroken either.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And so it was definitely a mixed message. So he definitely deserves a lot of his reputation. But I think, but he did it in a way where all of his orders were specific to absolve him later. So he was smart about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Howard goes and issues, what is it, number 42?
Right. And then he basically says this, and that's it. Right.
Calm the fuck down.
And they go, hey, this is, and that's where a lot of the great Masonic stories are about those burnings, because specific places were to be not touched, and lodges, etc. So it goes back to human nature. But the Carolinas, I've always found the Carolina campaign much more
it's anyway. I find it much more fascinating than the March to the Sea, especially after learning a little bit a little more about it and studying for the podcast as well. But I think with Howard, a lot of stuff is it's not just the fact that he's Christian. I think too, some of him being a Freemason is factoring into this as well.
Yeah,
I think he's.
Yeah, I think a lot. I think a lot of that. It's not an overblown thing, so I don't think it was front of mind. But I think it was something that if it came down to it, one way or the other, that was part of the. That was definitely part of the thinking. It's all documented and it's all written up and stuff like that. But but it's certainly fun to speculate and study about that, because you know what, a lot of times when you read history, and it's surmising and speculating between the lines of what else was going on, just trying to imagine, because sometimes you can discover stuff even if you can't prove it. You get a good feel of what was probably going on by just kind of read between the lines of this stuff. And that's what's fun about it. That's why that's
what I enjoy about it too. Yeah. And that's what's awesome about the people that jump on here. You can have some really great discussions. We have different opinions about stuff, but nobody's wrong. It's just.
Except the Indians suck. We've talked about that.
Fucker.
It's one thing I'll never get you off is the stupid Cleveland Indians.
Nope.
But that's okay. No, I like the Indians. The Indians are cool. So
well, the Red Sox are my second team, so.
Red Sox, here we go all the way. Another banner coming up this year.
Might show up to this live one day wearing a Sox hat.
Well, that'd be something. We'll have to lose a bet if that would happen.
Maybe not.
Exactly.
Snyder accepts someone's math. My math does suck.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I would.
I would. I fully admit.
I've never seen anybody, still count with their fingers though, which is pretty funny.
That's how I do math.
Nothing wrong with it. But
I'm a Civil War geek, not a mathematician.
That's exactly. We've talked about that many, many times. Well, I guess we can kind of wind down a little bit. It's already 12:15, huh? Mm-hmm. It's really how fast this time goes.
I know it is.
Lucky me, I get to go outside and shovel snow for a while now.
I don't get too excited. I might actually go for a walk if it's not too cold out. Ryan said, I'm reading about the Peninsula Campaign where the Union troops can hear the church bells in Richmond. It seems like a different war in 100 years from Sherman, the Carolinas. It was a very different war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Peninsula is really interesting anyway, because it's it just is, it's interesting, that you talk about Richmond's and how McClellan got ripped for not getting it in 3 months, but it took Grant 9 months. And
yeah,
admittedly by then the goal wasn't so much Richmond as it was Lee and stuff like that. But
yeah,
but it's just funny. We talk about a lot that with McClellan, the perception of McClellan versus Grant, stuff like that too. But yeah, they were close. I mean,
oh yeah,
I don't think it would have mattered. They would have they realistically would have moved the capital to Birmingham.
Yeah, exactly.
Which probably should have been anyway, to be honest. Or Nashville was the original one, right?
Yeah. No, it was in Alabama.
It was Nashville. I thought Nashville was I don't think it was for long. I thought I read somewhere that or maybe that was the plan.
The plan,
but it ended up.
I think it was in Alabama.
But they would have moved it. Would have gone to Birmingham, which is probably should have been anyway.
Yeah. It was originally in Alabama, I think, and then they moved it to Richmond.
Somebody wanted Nashville, but
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I know, but I know, but it would have
Montgomery,
right,
Wayne,
Montgomery.
Wayne. Thank you, Wayne.
But Nashville would have made the most sense, though. It would have been, if you think about it. A lot of the factories or New Orleans even.
Yeah.
I guess if you try to control the water, New Orleans would have made sense, but Richmond didn't make a hell of a lot of sense, to be honest.
Well, I think it was more just the proximity to Washington, like something psychological is factoring into that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
As well.
Yeah.
And thank you for everybody. There's been some new people hopping on here today, so that's really awesome. I think we were consistently around 20 people, which is great. It's always fun to get it. Number 28.
That's a long time. It's been consistent.
Sorry, 27, 28.
27, yeah.
See, there's my math skills again.
Yeah. That's more of a memory skill right there. It's more of a cognizant thing. But
paying attention skill?
Yeah. But well, I guess we can get ready to shut this down. So next week we are doing
Meridian.
We're doing Meridian, which will be fun.
Yeah.
And so then we'll do that. It won't be long till our book club's coming, but we're gonna have our St. Patty's Day roundtable, which has disaster written all over it.
Because we'll both be drinking by then.
That'll be. I think everybody will, and the fact that nobody will be able to go out anywhere will be pretty funny too. So.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Well, maybe Ryan's able to go out. He might, because it's he's ahead of us in time, so he might show up to it already drunk.
He'll probably call in from the bar. Probably that'd be kind of cool.
That
actually,
would be cool if he called from a pub.
That would actually be legit cool. You get points for that one.
Yeah. Hey, Evan called in from a pub the other night.
That's right. He did. Yep. He did. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
If he calls in from a bar in England on St. Patty's Day, it's not. And granted, that's not exactly Dublin, but it'll still be pretty cool. Though.
That would be really cool. Yeah.
Better than being freaking here. I'll tell you that.
Well, it's the best we can do right now.
It is. It is. Yep. We'll just make sure Biddles doesn't get blocked for spam. Yeah. That was pretty funny, actually.
Snyder said St. Patty's take a shot every time math is done incorrectly or the term full frontal is used. Yeah, Wayne, take care. He says he's got to go boil water. Oh,
well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I was looking at the weather in the south, and it's going to be in the 60s all next week, so I just got to make a few more days.
Yeah, that's good. God, that's terrible.
Rude.
Funny.
It was actually pretty funny, actually. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Kelly and Meager, and all those guys.
Carney Kearney.
That'll be fun. That'll be a good time. So hopefully by then I'll have to get some Guinness for the event.
I was thinking that, but I don't know. I think I'm just going to drink my IPAs.
I'm going to have that Redbreast whiskey. I think I'm going to have to.
Not doing the whiskey thing.
I'm just going to sit here and smile the whole time.
I got to get up and go to work the next day. So
I
was contemplating taking the day off.
That'd be a baller move. You should call in sick the day after.
Yeah, that would look really good.
Just say
No.
Just say you lost your glasses and you can't see coming into work today.
That would be the truth.
Use that for an excuse. They'll like that one too.
Legally, I can't drive without my glasses.
Oh, Paul. Yeah, John's a good friend of ours. Thanks for jumping on with us too.
Yeah,
that's pretty
you.
cool. he's a good dude. So
yeah, no, he was very.
He was
nice
on here for a little while. He was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He had to
He usually
grace us with his presence. He usually comes on for a few minutes, says hello, and we usually have some good 16th Maine talk. Now I got 16th Maine in my head now because of John Heckman.
Yeah.
I'll do something Twitter related for the 16th Maine today.
Yeah, he should.
Maybe. Who knows? All right, so off we go. So the next time we do this will be next Saturday. We'll see how that goes. And one more week to go with this whole dry February thing. So we can have some fun with that. So everybody, we're going to jump off. So thanks for John for signing on as well, spending your morning with us. Hopefully, if you are in the South, hopefully you are warm, have electricity. If not, then it'll be coming soon. So up here we have snow, and I'm sure you got snow over there in Old Canada. So we will deal with that. The winter is slowly. It's getting brighter out later in the day. The birds are chirping in the morning, so spring is coming. And baseball's starting pretty soon, Mary. Spring training, I think, is getting underway. So hope springs eternal, as everybody. So everyone, thanks for jumping on. Stay safe. Hope you enjoyed yourselves as much as we do. We always have a lot of fun with this stuff as well.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Yes, you have a good weekend too, Snyder. So everybody have a great weekend, and we will see you all again next Saturday, as usual. It'll be dry again for us, but 2 weeks from now, the last one. Yeah, God, I can't wait to have an IPA.
And we will talk about some Meridian and anything else that comes up down the pike. So again, stay safe, stay warm. Hopefully you find a drink this weekend, and hopefully you have a good, safe weekend. And always a pleasure. So definitely. So Uncle Blingy.
Yep.
Check it out.
Cheers, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you later.
All right, peace out. See ya.
Bye.